sir. With your permission, I'm starting.
Yeah, please.
Every moment offers you a choice which either lead you closer to knowledge or farther away. At GLBIMR, we make this choice every day. The warm winter sun and I, Priyanka Rathi, Assistant Professor at GL Bajaj Institute of Management and Research, on behalf of our entire team, is honored to welcome the galaxy of experts present here today. A very good morning to respected Professor Dr. Ajay Kumar sir, Director GLB IMR, our guest of honor, Dr. Vinishil Gautamji, PhD FRAS London, and internationally acclaimed management thinker and practitioner, chief guest of the session, Shri Anil Swarupji, ex-IAS officer and founder chairman Nexus of Good, expert speakers of the session, delegates from academia and industry, faculty members GLBIMR, and students. जो विद्या की देवी भगवती सरस्वती कुंद के फूल चंद्रमा हिम राशि और मोती के हार की तरह ध्वल वर्ण की हैं और जो श्वेत वस्त्र धारण करती हैं जिनके हाथ में वीणा दंड शोभ्यमान है जिन्होंने श्वेत कमलों पर आसन ग्रहण किया है तथा ब्रह्मा विष्णु एवं शंकर आदि देवताओं द्वारा जो सजा पूजित हैं वही संपूर्ण जड़ता और अज्ञान को दूर कर देने वाली मां सरस्वती की उपासना के साथ हम आज के कार्यक्रम को शुरू करने जा रहे हैं to mark the auspicious beginning of 5th International Conference on Digital Transformation.
या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्कर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा.
The international business environment is undergoing major changes with the technological disruptions over the last few years. The COVID-19 pandemic has also impacted the whole world. Major economies are bound to face severe jolts in terms of their overall performances. The only sector that inspires hope is information technology, the core of Industry 4.0. Leveraging the growth of IT and business transformation, GLBIMR has organized the 5th edition of ICD TIFB 2020 with the aim to provide a global platform to academicians, researchers, corporate strategists, industry practitioners, policymakers, regulatory authorities, and NGOs to facilitate the discussion on sustainable management practices pertaining to innovation and development. GL Bajaj Group of Institution was established in the year 1997 and GLBIMR was established in 2007 under the visionary guidance of Shri Pankaj Agarwal ji, Vice Chairman GL Bajaj Group of Institutions, and since then the institution embarked on the journey to reinvent management education in NCR. In the record time of 13 years, GLBIMR has demonstrated remarkable growth and has received various awards and accolades. Recently, GLBIMR is ranked 7th in Delhi NCR and 7th in North India under B School ranking declared in the Week magazine. Our institution is flourishing every day under the guidance of and leadership of Vice Chairman Shri Pankaj Agarwal ji and our Director, Professor Dr. Ajay Kumar sir. Moving further, I would take this quick opportunity to introduce Shri Pankaj Agarwal ji, who is Vice Chairman of GL Bajaj Group of Institution. Leadership is the capacity to transform vision into reality. This has been rightly proved by Shri Pankaj Agarwal ji. He is a transformational leader whose vision has provided the foundation for translating dreams into reality for young professionals. For being dynamic young entrepreneur, He has been awarded various awards: 4 Top Ranker Excellence Award, Institutional Builder in the 19th National Management Summit 2 in February 2018. He was conferred with Samaj Ratna Award. The chief guest of the event was Dr. Mahesh Sharma, Union Minister of State for Tourism and Culture. And Shri Pankaj Agarwal ji was amongst the only 3 young entrepreneurs in UP who were awarded with the highly prestigious award. Shri Pankaj Agarwal ji has been conferred with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award for Excellence in Management Education in India 2019, National Education Leadership Award 2019, Opit Services Private Limited for the Excellence in the Field of Quality Education. Shri Pankaj Agarwal ji has left impressionable mark everywhere and won laurels for GR Bajaj Group at various platforms. Moving further, let me take this opportunity to introduce Professor Dr. Ajay Kumar Sir. Dr. Ajay Kumar Sir is a strategic thinker and an academician with revolutionary spirit. He carries more than 33 years of experience in academic research, training, and consultancy. For his relentless efforts towards academia excellence, he has been awarded by several national and international bodies. Philip Kotler Awards 2020 by Laura Rees, President Rees, Georgia, USA, Inspirational Icon of the Year 2020 by Integrated Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to name a few. Sir has been at the director position in many institutions such as ITS, Asian School of Media Studies, International Chamber of Media Entertainment Industries, and many more. A great leader is not necessarily the one who does great things. He's the one that gets the people to do the greatest things. With these words, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Ajay Kumar Sir to formally welcome and inaugurate the 5th edition of International Conference on Digital Transformation Industry 4.0 and Future of Business.
Chief guest of today's ceremony, Dr. Anil Swarupji, Ex-IAS, Founder Chairman, Nexus of Good. Our guest of honor, Dr. Vinishil Gautam sir, distinguished speakers, representatives of professional bodies and industries, other distinguished guests, invitees, delegates, research scholars, faculty and staff members, and my dear students. On behalf of GL Bajaj Institute of Management and Research and governing body of GLBIMR, I take this opportunity to extend a warm welcome to all on the 5th International Conference on Digital Transformation Industry 4.0 and Future of Business. Choosing the theme of the conference, Digital Transformation, Industry 4.0 and Future of Business, was triggered by realization that the world is shrinking and only those businesses which are on the edge of flexibility, connectivity, and intelligence are going to thrive in this turbulent world. Industry 4.0, also known as Fourth Industrial Revolution, encompasses majority of the latest trends through technological innovations, and the digital revolution or digital transformation, whatever terminology suits you, definitely led to connectivity, intelligence, and flexible automation. Digital transformation has brought about dramatic, life-changing internet innovations like Internet of Things, big data, cloud computing, advanced robotics, and many more. Because of these advances, we see exponential growth in digital sectors and the rise of the model of digital economy. The ongoing digital transformation holds the promise of improving productivity performance by enabling innovation and reducing the costs of a range of business processes. But at the same time, internet threats are increasingly complex. Cyber attacks have many a times been life-threatening to government and business. Moreover, fake news and the use of deep fake technologies like generating fake but realistic video clips have questioned privacy and concerns about identity theft, and security for both governments and all industries. There are several challenges too. So there is a need to look all these challenges with very realistic perspective and proper outlook. Also, if we talk about the post-pandemic era or the pandemic era itself, because we are still in pandemic era, efficiency as nations have sunk, and global business scenario overall, it has been widely disturbed, widely affected. You can say that the entire business scenario or entire business proposition, it has been jeopardized. India's dependence on human interference in its manufacturing and production has immensely contributed to the contraction in the real economic output post-COVID-19 or the COVID era, you can say. At this important juncture, adapting Industry 4.0 can either make it or break it for us. Challenges are manifold, challenges are multiple. Though digital transformation has commenced in India very late, we can say, because entire internetization or computerization started 30 years back, we can say, in 90s it started. So we are far away from reaching the zenith, or rather reaping the true fruit of digital transformation, not only in the economy, but in day-to-day life too. This is not only in terms of automation, but also in terms of our ability to capture, store, process, and analyze data. Though analytics is perceived as support function in most industries, and perhaps considered dispensable in many business organizations, but it holds the key to informed decision making. Digital transformation of functions like talent acquisition and management, marketing, value chain, cost management, and manufacturing have proven to have led to exponential results, even in India. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is not only for the culmination of our learnings of Industry 4.0, but a platform for us to brainstorm and learn from our peers. Today we have got a galaxy of excellent speakers, industry experts, academic experts also, researchers too. And I believe that the deliberation by the great people, great speakers, including our chief guest, who always remains updated with latest innovation, be it technology or be it social or be it political, and guest of honor, Dr. Vinishil Gautam sir. Naturally, whatever will be told about him or whatever is being said about him at different platform, that is just showing a light to sun. We know he has been always limitless. So ladies and gentlemen, I believe that all of you will be having great takeaways today with the discussions and deliberations by the experts on digital transformation, Industry 4.0 and future business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your knowledgeable words. Now I may request the tech support to play the visuals for unveiling of the conference proceedings, please. Thank you. Today, we have two great eminent personalities among us. With great honor and pride, I take this opportunity to introduce our guest of honor, Dr. Vinishil Gautamji, sir. Dr. Vinishil Gautamji, sir, is internationally acclaimed management thinker and practitioner. Dr. Gautam is an institution builder and has served at apex positions of various prestigious institutions. He was the founder director of IIM Kozhikode, leader consulting team IIM Shillong, first head management department IIT Delhi, ex-director IFTDO UK, and many more. He has been served as president emeritus ISTD and has been in the advisory forum and advisory board of AEC Group Singapore. With many national and international fellowships and awards, he is globally acclaimed thinker, consultant, and author. Dr. Vinishil Gautamji, sir, has authored and edited over 24 books and over 150 papers. He is widely respected as an impact-making consultant. His consulting practices in strategy, OD, innovation, leadership, performance management, L&D, financial services and banking governance, change management, management of self, entrepreneurship, social educations are highly valued. As respected practitioner of management, he has been closely associated with boards of various Indian and non-Indian organizations like SAIL, SpiceJet, KEC International, Save the Children, Shivam Autotech, UTI, to name a few. We are highly honored and pleased to have Dr. Vinayshil Gautam sir among us today. Learning gives creativity. Creativity leads to thinking. Thinking provides knowledge, and knowledge makes you great. With these words, I would like to welcome Dr. Vinishil Gautamji, our guest of honor, to the platform to set us all onto the path of knowledge. Sir, please.
Thank you. I would like to express my gratitude to the people who have organized this function and people who run Real Bajaj Institute, particularly Mr. Agrawal, Dr. Ajay Kumar, and host of other committed personnel involved in the setting up of this organization and this event. For the opportunity I have to share my ideas. Several of you would have heard me before, and the problem of the number of events you get involved with is the problem of having something different to say each time and build upon what you said earlier on, because there are people in the audience who have heard you before, and if you have nothing else to say than what you have said before, then of course they know what you're going to say subsequently. So every such effort means an effort equivalent to at least writing a research paper, because you have not only to update, but to cross-refer and be in sync with the times. Talking of an event on digital transformation, Industry 4.0 and future of business has been rendered more complicated because of the mixed nature of experience which is surfacing in different parts of the world, not necessarily in sync with each other. Therefore, I will choose India as the domain of my work, which is to underscore that not the whole world is passing through Industry 4.0. And in fact, the more evolved nations seem to be going through a plateauing and unable to adapt digitization to the process of business transformation. But that's another story. In India itself, I must share my insight with you, for whatever it is worth, to make a very simple proposition. Digitization is the fourth generation of a process which began with mechanization. Mechanization in Indian industries started towards the end of the 19th century itself, simultaneously with the processes of setting up of the industries, which at that moment were either textile or sugarcane. Mechanization was followed with what can be called for want of a better word, automation. And automation was followed by computerization. The present version of digitization is in linear succession to these three processes. Therefore, it is in sequence and is carrying on the legacy factor. When I was doing the literature survey of what is the lay of the land between my presentation on this similar topic about 4 months ago and today, I came to the uncomfortable conclusion that people are getting charmed by what would be the brand image of the phrase and not looking at the content. Content of digitization requires certain precursor activities. It requires, first and foremost, internet competencies, bandwidth, as well as sufficient education in equipment, instruments, and what can be, for want of a better phrase, called interfaces with the user. None of this is being talked about because it's fashionable to swoon over the wonders of digitization, and it has become even more fashionable when it was widely recognized that the powers that be in this country are committed to digitization. And here, we always want to be on the right side of power and hope that some crumbs of patronization will also come our way if we go singing hallelujah to the favorite theories which people in positions of influence hold. It may or may not be true, that's none of my business, but it is certainly not an academic approach, it's certainly not a professional approach, and it prevents having an objective understanding of the processes. My own fieldwork leads me to some very simple conclusions, and a lot of you listening to this may testify. The market is populated by different generation of instruments, be it mobile, be it computers, be it any device which is the user interface to the process of digitization. Therefore, inter-system dialogue has become very complicated. And inter-system dialogue has been complicated even when the processes of computerization were covering industry. If one system of computers couldn't talk with another system of computers, you couldn't transfer data from one system to another because there wasn't the compatibility. If I had the time and occasion, I would have talked of Codeco and different programmings of computers, and how even in the aviation industry, data had to be physically transported on disk from one system of computers to another or cause delays, thereby negating the entire advantage of computerization. Now, these are things which I don't hear enough about, and if they are not being talked about, obviously researchers are skirting around it and getting onto the bandwagon of singing hallelujahs and proclaiming to be seeing virtues in digitization, which are really the Achilles heels of digitization. Because I don't know how many people would like to talk about the problems of the internet, problems of connectivity, problems of sheer inefficiency of the unemployable who have found their way in the expanding IT sector and are creating havoc with data entry. The story is not of one governance system or one political power. It goes back across parties in power, and it goes back against systems of administration. It has a genealogy of its own. When the election card was put on the fashion table by Mr. Sheshan, and perhaps rightly so, I was then a faculty in IIT, and I got my first election card issued. And I was proclaimed to be Vinayshil Gautam. Now, there is an obvious difference between Vinayshil and Vinayshil. The pun is entirely unintended. It was clearly a data entry error. Now, the humor ends there. I was dragged all over offices virtually and had to walk literally from pillar to post to get somebody to understand that that was not my name, because what is on the computer has become something to swear by. And to cut a long story short, I was supposed to produce evidences of the correct spelling of my name, my senior Cambridge certificate, which went back to 1961, and the process was endless till I happened to run into an election commissioner. I would be happy to name him Dr. G.V.G. Krishnamurthy, and I shared with him my woes, and he said he'll sort it out for me, and even he took a week to convert shit into shill. Now, as I said, this has no humor to it because incorrect entries by people who are incompetent and worse have created a situation where the entire advantage of digitization is lost because of inadequate manpower and inadequate infrastructure. Therefore, what are we gloating about? If we want to enter the digitization phase, be it industry 4.0 or 3.0 or whatever you want, whatever stage, you have to create the delivery channels and the delivery vehicles for it. And in my limited information in the area, this is not getting sufficient attention. And if I have to use a forum to flag it, I'm happy to do it here and now because it is in collective interest. Otherwise, the whole purpose of digitization may stand defeated. Irrespective of this glitch, and irrespective of this limitation, which requires, to my mind, urgent attention, it is important to realize that digitization is a speed vehicle. I was looking at the relative figures of what has been the reduction in speed. And the data which I have before me shows that the search journey of researching a topic before digitization was 2 days. Now it has been reduced to 2 hours. The entertainment journey to listen to a specific song took 5 hours. Now it takes 5 minutes. The social journey to organize an event for 200 people was earlier on a whole day. And an event like this, if you have the systems in place, takes less than 30 minutes. The purchase and delivery journey, which was earlier on clocked at 48 hours to 1 week, is now taking place in 20 minutes. Therefore, human beings have multiplied their time span and therefore are able to do more in less time, which means basically their longevity has gone up. If their longevity has gone up, lifestyles have to change, relationships have to be thought through again, and the support facilities for bringing up families, travel, and storage, not to talk of retrieval and integrating it with operational action, have to be thought through. If there are any research institutions focusing attention on this in a concerted manner and relating to each other, I would love to be educated on it. So, talking in terms of percentages, the search journey is 25 times faster. The entertainment location journey is 70 times faster. The social journey of an organizer, say, of an event like this, is 25 times faster. The purchase and delivery journey, just to be illustrative of 4 events, is 100 times faster. What has it done to the supply chain? Because we are talking here of future of business. If our supply chain is not party to this, then obviously there is going to be higher downtime. There are going to be redundancies, and there the human resources development specialists have not adequately addressed themselves to the concerns of manpower planning as a consequence of digitization. And this is my second major submission. We have to cast afresh our entire approach to manpower planning with reference to the status of digitization in that industry. Otherwise, we will be substituting slogans for thoughts and concerted action. This has implications, and this is my third proposition, for skill formation and education. If you look at our school education, and the country is rife today singing hallelujahs of the wonders of the new education policy, and perhaps all of it is well placed. I don't grudge anyone a compliment, especially if the efforts has been made to try to break new ground, and there is plenty of strength in the new education policy in attempting to break the silos and keep movements of learning above all as the prime consideration of growing in the learning process. But that's another story. The school education was so far, and we have an outstanding expert of school education here who led the country with great distinction in these matters some years ago, and I have had personal occasions to testify to his contributions, but that's another story, was emphasizing linearity. Now non-linear thinking is as much a part of the school learning processes, at least in terms of theoretical constructs. The talk of collaboration is now the toast of the day, and competition and its approach to developing the industry is being relegated to the background. There was an era not long ago when you were talking of choices between globalization and localization. Today, my case is we have to take issues of localization along with globalization, and they need not be seen in antagonistic relationship. But this has impacted strategy also, and having taught the paper on strategy for at least a decade in its different incarnations and different hues and shades, today, if I were to run a course on strategy, I would be helping my students to realize that the earlier recommendation of looking at the big picture needs to be modified to look at the big picture along with the gains that the big picture will have for business. In other words, there has to be a change in the vantage point of perceptions. You have to define long-term strategy to work towards and be prepared to take the right risks at the right time, and the entire character of risk management has changed when certain provisions of the regulatory processes brought in the concern of having risk management as an essential part of the industry functioning. It was recommended that we should have an independent silo for risk management, and promptly many executive directors in the organizations were moved over to become the head of the risk management silo. It turned out to be a different story, and it turned out that in the ultimate analysis, risk management itself had to be redefined. The reduction of external dependence on delivering value of the customer has now to be replaced by policy support of delivering value to the customer. Thinking has to be unconstrained, and even sky is not the limit. I have just outlined to you 4 areas of action where strategy will have to adjust to the new kind of business environment which we have ushered in. I was told by Professor Ajay Kumar that the expectation was that the speaker would speak something about the subject in about 25 minutes. And I do notice that there is understandable excitement here of listening to other speakers also along with what I have got to say. Therefore, I will start the process of winding up to make a few submissions which can be taken as takeaways of what I seek to convey to you. And my submissions are the following. We have to recognize that whereas earlier on, being the victor and number one was the toast of success, today you have to conquer together, and collaboration, which I have already talked about, has to be across sectors, not just in the industry. You have to collaborate internally for collective power to the organization, and we have therefore to get interdisciplinary teams in position. You have to leverage the digital infrastructure of the nation before you can leverage the digital infrastructure of the industry, and therefore you cannot have a nation divided into pockets. If I had the time, I would have shared with you the kind of statistics which I know exist in access to internet in the less richly endowed areas. And this cuts across, if I might tell you, gender, age, and certainly the local resources of the area. Now, if that is the situation, I think we need a policy which will integrate digitization with developmental concerns. So to sum up, therefore, and I'm sure more competent people will build upon this approach, we have to look at intermingling scale with complexity. The bigger ones don't necessarily need to be seen as potential winners because size itself has problems. The entire approach to managing enterprises has changed, business has changed, and whereas it's fashionable to talk of change, nobody knows what are the components of the change we are heading for, or indeed what we should head for. We have to look at integrating relevance with experience. Now, one of the major problems of running a business is the younger folk with better education, better degrees, often believe the old, and by that I mean anyone with whom they have an age difference of 15 to 25 years, need to learn. But probably they are right, because learning is a continuous process. But I am reminded of a poem which I used to be very fond of, because I was not always plowing the furrow of management. There was an era when I was committed to creativity in its literary form, and a poem comes to mind, a father addressing his son. माना है कि तुम हो आलिम फाजिल, माना है कि तुम हो आलिम फाजिल और पाए हैं डिग्रियां हजार, लेकिन तजर्बा भी तो कोई चीज है मेरे यार. And I find it necessary to quote that poem here, because this overemphasis of how many degrees you have, and mind you, I'm saying overemphasis, I'm not belittling degrees, especially in India. If you happen to be from Sussex, a thing to which I plead guilty, or if you have lectured in Cambridge, you are obviously more valid and more valued than if you are from Trichy or Bhagalpur or Bhatinda. I mean, how can you be a scholar from a place like Bhatinda? No disrespect meant at all. But this business of imagery taking over reality must be the first outcome of digitization. You must be able to respect the indicators of excellence. Therefore, there is a soft side of digitization, which I don't hear too many people talking about. Therefore, when Dr. Ajay Kumar gave me this platform to unburden myself and my thinking on some of the touch points which I would like the younger generation and therefore more qualified to think about, I thought I'll share with you. Talking of digitization itself, I would like to conclude my presentation to you with a simple thought. There is a difference between analytics and data. I know analytics is a favored word these days. And since I happen to be involved with various academic institutions, I see a rush to run programs in data analytics. And people rush in to get admitted to that course, as if you got admitted to that course, the gates to heaven will open. Well, I have never been to heaven yet, and I suppose I won't get there till I die. I don't know when I will die. Therefore, you will have to wait for an answer till I have visited the gates of heaven. But doing a course on data analytics, to my mind, it does not open the gates to heaven. Therefore, this business of running around fancy names has to be, again, a soft side of understanding digitization. And there is more to say if I had more time to say it in. But I'll stop there because Anil ji is to follow me. And I am certainly looking forward to his talk, his remarks, because that is always a huge learning process. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. And I might say, ideas fresh from the oven, because I do have a brand name of not hesitating to rush in where the angels fear to tread, because somebody needs to say these things for consideration. You may ultimately reject it after I have said it, but I think I deserve the right to be heard, because there has been a lot of effort in reading, researching, understanding empirically what is the lay of the land. Do correct me if I need correction. I look forward to the remarks and comments from others. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. And giving me a hearing, which is always a pleasure when you feel you have something to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for such an insightful and interesting discussion. Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but it is an opportunity to say thank you to the gurus who helped us in the journey of knowledge seeking. We thank you, Dr. Vinishil Gautamji, sir, for sharing the treasure of his knowledge with us. Sir, kindly accept our humble thank you. I may request tech support to please run the visuals. Thank you, sir. With great honor and pride, I take this opportunity to introduce our chief guest, Shri Anil Swarupji, sir. Shri Anil Swarupji, sir, is the author of Ethical Dilemmas of a Civil Servant, and not just a civil servant. An experienced public servant with a demonstrated history of working in coal and school education sectors, strong administrative professional, skilled in crisis management, infrastructure, and social sectors. Reform the coal sector that led to transparent auction of natural resources and unprecedented increase in coal production. Fostered public-private partnership to improve quality of school education by involving NGOs, formulated and administered one of the largest social sector health insurance scheme for more than 30 million poor in the country. An ex-IAS officer, Shri Anil Swarupji, sir, is the founder chairman of Nexus of Good. The more you listen to great thinkers, the more you will know. The more you learn, the more your appetite of learning will become. To spark the appetite of knowledge, I would like to welcome chief guest of the day, Dr. Anil Swarupji, sir, to the platform. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, and thank you very much for these very kind words. My young friends and not so young friends, I am certain that each one of you would have benefited from what Dr. Gautam had to say. I had heard him before. I admire his insights, not only his insights, but I really admire his sense of humor. Actually, when we become intellectually profound, sometimes that's something which gets sacrificed, but I'm so glad that Dr. Gautam remains grounded. His ideas are based on ground realities, and his suggestions are eminently doable. Why I say that? Because there is no dearth of ideas in this country. Almost you walk down the street and you ask people how to handle COVID, almost everyone will know how to handle COVID and then curse the government for not handling it appropriately. So without passing a judgment on whether the government did or did not do well, let me tell you that it is very easy to have ideas. The problem is that in a democracy like ours, an idea to fructify and sustain it has to be politically acceptable, socially desirable, technologically feasible, and I'll talk about it at length subsequently, administratively doable, judicially tenable, and financially viable. I know it's a handful, but having been on the other side of the fence in terms of implementing such ideas, I did come across a large number of issues that prevented me from doing what I thought was a good idea. And that is why when I wrote this book, Ethical Dilemmas of a Civil Servant, which runs around these propositions, I say that despite these limitations, if a civil servant, and I'm talking of civil servant because I was a civil servant, and it could hold true of anybody in the country, can do if he so desires to do, for the simple reason that there are people around who manage to deliver despite these problems. The question is where we are looking at. Now, this brings me to the next point, the topic of the day. You know, I have been credited with use of technology phenomenally. Though I myself don't understand technology, I can barely operate my laptop. I seek assistance from technologies to do things that I want to do. But one thing that I learned during the course of my career was how to use technology in the sense of making things happen on the ground. And that is where I'd like to touch upon certain human-related aspects of technology. Because what we are talking of 4.0, it relates to hardware, software, connectivity, and what we are missing out is the content, which Dr. Gautam also alluded to when he was talking about the unmentionable shit. So the point is, what is the content? And I'll touch upon the human part of technology, because if that doesn't happen, I don't think we'll be able to benefit from the so-called revolution that we are talking of. My clear understanding is that you can outsource a lot of expertise, but at least in the civil service I've seen, you can't outsource attitude. You can't, so to say, evolve as a human being who can make the best use of the technology available. See, the key point is whether those human beings are available, whether they are appropriately equipped, whether they are appropriately trained, whether they have the attitude to use technology. To me, this part is extremely, extremely critical. I have no doubt about the fact that the hardware will in any case come. Software will in any case come. The connectivity, thanks to this COVID, which has many other negative aspects, but the positive aspect is that the government is fast-tracked connectivity. So hopefully connectivity will come, if not with the requisite bandwidth, but connectivity will come sooner than what it was expected earlier. So the connectivity will be there, the software will be there, the hardware will be there, but whether I am there, whether the human beings are there to make the best use of technology. It's not that it is not happening. Look at, I mean, I couldn't have imagined an Uber and Ola 10 years ago. I couldn't have imagined somebody delivering me food even during COVID times. I don't miss out on outside food, it gets delivered. And look at the amount of technology that is being used. But the key issues and the key challenges are in the context of human beings. And I'm so glad that Dr. Gautam also alluded to the islands, to the oasis of technology development. I think the job will have to be to diversify it, to take it to all the parts of the country. If that doesn't happen, we'll have a serious problem. Let me take the example of school education, since I have dealt with school education. And I'm again so glad that you alluded to national education policy, though I have a slight difference of opinion on the national education policy. I feel the policy is probably the finest that we could think of, but I don't know how it's going to be implemented. It talks about allocating 6% of GDP, but they don't say how. In fact, when Dr. Rangarajan came to meet me, the chairman of the committee came to meet me. I was then school education secretary. And he asked me, what is your suggestion about the national education policy? I told him, you are wasting your time. He was a bit surprised because we had constituted that committee. I said, in case you want to have a policy, I'm not against it, but have an action plan to follow it. And that's where the human element comes in. What needs to be done, how it will be done, who will do it, by when it will be done. Otherwise, policy is merely conglomeration of ideas until you have a roadmap clearly worked out on how to do it. Because when you do this, you start understanding the handicaps. It could be a financial handicap, it could be an administrative handicap, but today I'll focus on the technology part of it, since the topic of discussion is technology. Now we talk of technology. Look at what has happened in COVID. The schools that are connected through internet are having, by and large, able to replicate the class. I mean, I have grandchildren who have regular classes in the morning and the teachers teach them. But look at the divide. 80 to 90% of the schools in the country do not have internet connectivity, or the children have no access to internet. How do you reach out to them? And that's why I agree with Dr. Gautam when he says that the spread has to be there. You may have technology. You know, today, everyone is talking about artificial intelligence. And I contested. I said, what about real intelligence? What about the existing technology that is being used or not? Let me give you an example. When I took over as coal secretary, at that time, anything that could have gone wrong had gone wrong with the coal sector. But I was not fully conversant with the coal sector. So I rang up a friend of mine to ask him, yaar, ye coal sector kaisa hai? He said, Gangs of Wasseypur dekhi hai kya? So that answered my question. But when I joined the coal sector, it was really very bad. But technology came to my rescue. We use technology to digitize all processes, to make the auction transparent, which is holding good even today. The recent commercial coal block auctions are happening on the platform that we created. We digitized all the files and papers because I am convinced that much of the so-called about corruption can be handled through use of technology and transparency. If you do that, no one has raised a finger against me for all that we did in coal block auctions. Lakhs of crores were involved in it, not a finger pointed. Before I took over as coal secretary, and I'm giving you my experience of use of technology, because to me, more important is the manner in which the technology is used than mere discussion or technology per se. Before that, I was made head of the project monitoring group as additional secretary in the cabinet secretariat at a time when all scams were breaking out. Commonwealth Games scam, coal scam, all scams are broken out. And the reason why I was called there, government officers were not taking decisions on the file because of these scams. They thought if we take a decision, we'll be caught. If we don't take a decision, no one is going to be after me. So my job was to fast track decision making. Imagine, anyone would have run away, but I thought I'd use technology. So we created a technology-based platform. And to cut a long story short, it is all, these all stories are all there in my book, Ethical Dilemmas of a Civil Servant. We used technology, we dispensed with paper, files, everything was transparent. We managed to clear more than 5 lakh crores worth of project when everything else was collapsing. How did we do it? Through use of technology. Similarly, when I became school education secretary, there again, I tried and digitized everything. But my problem is, and I've recently written in an article, why aren't the government departments digitizing their files and papers? Number one. Number two, why are they not becoming transparent? You know why I say that? Because again, this is the human element of technology. It's not technology. Technology will always be available. You use the technology. But if I don't have the attitude to use the technology, no matter how good technology you get, it won't work. Now, I am at total loss to understand why aren't the government departments digitizing their files. The reason is simple. When people ask me, in those difficult times, how did you manage to get the clearance of 5 lakh crores worth of project? I said, very simple. No matter how inefficient I am, to the world, I'd like to appear to be efficient. Now, if you digitize the process and put it on the portal, the world will know which Babu, which officer is sitting on which file for how many minutes and how many seconds. That itself will expedite the process. You know, much of the corruption that we have in the government is on account of speed money. My power is on account of your ignorance. If I make things transparent, I cease to be powerful, and that could be one of the reasons why some of us don't want to digitize. There could be there could be lethargy, there could be indifference, there could be any reason, but one of the primary reasons is that I am powerful because you are ignorant, and you're ignorant because you don't know, and you don't know because I don't tell you. The moment you use technology, it will happen. And hence, I lay a lot of emphasis on the human element part of technology. If we are not attitudinally preparing ourselves for use of technology, I'm not so conversant in the private sector, except for the fact that I remember one day, Kumaramangalam Birla came to meet me, and he didn't see any file on my table. He said, how do you manage? I've been to many secretaries' rooms, but you don't seem to have any file. I said, we've digitized everything, no file, no paper. Then he looked towards his 2 CEOs who were sitting at his left and right. He said, why can't we do it in our segment? Here was government trying to convey a message that why. But the point here is, if you want opacity, then technology will not really help. So this is one dimension to it. Of course, there are other parts of technology that needs to be very carefully looked at. You know, there is this ethical dilemma emerging in terms of the privacy part and the transparency part. How far can you open up? So these are ethical questions that will need to be answered. I think in India, we're still far away from that. In fact, when Aadhaar came, I was wondering why this shouting. The Google knows more about you than the government knows about you through Aadhaar, but there's this intellectual drama going on that Aadhaar should not be allowed. Imagine if Aadhaar were to be accepted lock, stock and barrel at stand. Of course, there are infirmities in it. And I did tell the government that why are we using Aadhaar data? Keep Aadhaar in the backdrop, create a dummy number on the basis of Aadhaar. That will also be unique. You don't have to touch Aadhaar data at all. You want the uniqueness of an individual. You don't want the data relating to the individual. So create that unique identity to work. So as I said, the technology is available there, but we have to be careful in terms of the manner of the environment that is getting created through use of technology. The make-believe world that is getting created. And Dr. Gautam also touched upon the fake news, the hacking part. These are the parts of technology that will have to be looked at. You know, as I said, I'm not a technologist, I'm a user of technology. And from the user point of view, I have been wondering that if we don't look at these aspects of it, then we could actually be in trouble, because technology could be used to actually reduce your independent activity. People can spy. I mean, they're already, I was very surprised. I mean, that I had searched somewhere for a particular product, and before I could close, advertisements started coming to me of that product from different agencies, meaning thereby you are not lonely, so to say. Now you're not any more secretive. In a way, it is good, because it prevents you from doing things which you would otherwise want to do, because now you know that the world knows what you're doing. So in a way, it is good. But there are certain elements that would still need to be private. That will be one challenge that we would have to look at. The biggest challenge that I see is that there could be some conglomerates who will start controlling this information. because this information will become available. So one has to be very cautious on how to handle. I don't have an answer for that. I'm a great believer in transparency, but we have to be cautious about the possible fallout of this. I can go on and on in this subject because these days I do the easier part. I do the talking part. Walking part is the most difficult part. So abhi to gyan baanta hai. So gyan baantna is the easiest thing. You can keep telling others what to do. Aap ye karo, aap ye karo, aap ye karo. Some people do ask me, aapne kaun sa tir top chalaya tha? Then I try and answer that. But now I'm doing the easier job. I'm doing the talking part. Since I think I've run out of time. It's already 11:02. You have other programs here. I will stop here. But it was a pleasure being here. This is my second interaction with the institute. I had gone there a year ago. Just a small suggestion. Please don't take it otherwise. One of the basic elements of technology is discipline, and one of the basic part of discipline is to be on time. And I've always felt those that come on time should not be penalized by those that don't come on time. So whenever you have a program, have as a principle, as I did that. I did a number of programs where ministers were invited. We started the program on time irrespective of the ministers. And they knew it. So they used to come on time. So it's a question of a discipline that you have. If you don't have discipline, I think I can guarantee that technology has a system of destroying us. If we are not, we have to be slightly more disciplined than the technology, because technology knows only numbers, and numbers is discipline. So we have to be as disciplined to harness what technology can give us. Thank you very much for inviting me. If I don't know whether you have a system of question answer session, I wish you have, because it's always nice to interact with youngsters. I learn more than they do in answering those questions. If you have that, love to answer some of those questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And very rightly said, policy is conglomeration of ideas until you know how to execute it. And brilliantly raised point, transparency and digitization could be a tool to curtail corruption. Thank you, sir, so much. Gratitude is one of the simplest yet most powerful of emotions available to humankind. Very humbly, we would like to extend our thank you to Shri Anil Swarup ji, sir, for sharing his valuable time and thoughts with us. I may request tech support, please, to run the visual. Thank you, sir. Thank you. To extend a formal thank you note, I may request Professor Dr. Arvind Bhatt to please take the platform.
A very graceful and warm morning to all our distinguished guests, Honorable VC Sir, respected Director Sir, valued panelists, researcher, scholar, participant, fraternity colleagues, and dear students. It's my privilege to propose vote of thanks on behalf of GLBMR and Conference Organizing Committee as a convener. First of all, I would like to express my deep gratitude to our guest of honor, Shri Vinishil Gautamji, for kindly accepting our invitation and gracing the inaugural function. Also taking our attention towards the skilled manpower during this transition towards digitalization by providing his live example of collecting certificate. Sir, we are truly honored and feel privileged your presence. Thank you very much, sir. And I also sincerely thanks our chief guest, Shri Anil Swarupji, for his august presence and ever available support. Issue related to attitude regarding willingness of adoption of this technology also captured the focus and made this conference in a right direction. My special gratitude goes to Honorable VC Sir of GL Bajaj Groups of Institution, Shri Pankaj Agrawal ji, for his continuous support and guidance. And here, we are very much thankful for our respected Director Sir, Professor Dr. Ajay Kumar ji, for his continuous support and guidance on each and every occasion while we are processing to conduct this international research. Thank you very much, sir. I take this opportunity also to all the reviewers, technical committee members for providing their valuable comments in time and help us to towards the improvement of quality papers and presented in the conference. Same time, we wish to express our sincerest gratitude for support for our panelists, esteemed guests, T.K. Batra ji, Mr. Ritesh Joseph, Mr. Rameshwar Puri ji, Nixon Joseph ji, Mr. Vineet Suri ji, Dev Kaushik ji, and Shri Sanjiva Dubey ji. From our core of heart, please accept our heartiest gratitude. All technical session chairs, their continuous support, their presence is making this event very wonderful. And I wish to take their name, those who are our technical session chairs, Dr. Vikas Kumar ji, Dr. Srinivasan ji, Professor Dr. Ashutosh Kumar ji, Dr. Adrena, Dr. Veena Tiwari ji, Dr. Parul Saxena. So this conference today is the effort of so many people directly and indirectly, their support, their guidance, their mentorship. So due to these all support, we are here and able to conduct this conference with your blessings and support successfully. So once again, I thank everyone who contributed and has made this conference a successful conference. Thank you very much, and back to you, Dr. Professor Priyanka Rathi. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Bhat sir. Sir, with your permission, I would like to take a few questions.
Yeah, please, 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 please.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is one question for Dr. Vinishil Gautamji, sir. One of our students wants to ask, what are the career opportunities available to them as an IT students in the technological area?
That is one of the questions which one can ramble over for long without saying anything substantial that you are looking for. I've spent enough time with academic institutions in the central universities, in colleges, in IIMs and IITs to know that progressively education has been commoditized and people come to learn management not to acquire knowledge as much as get a proper placement, and the institutions fan those embers by talking of what was the takeaway salary for which the students came. Now, I am not in that game. I have a simple proposition to make in the limitations of the occasion and the time. Nature of work will determine the quality of employment. Nature of work is an evolving one. Whether IT infrastructure will be on the way up or IT extension will be on the way up or IT as an enabling factor which will determine regulations and budgeting and finance will be a factor, I don't know. And this will probably vary from industry to industry, sector to sector, in fact, even location to location. Therefore, if you are looking for a patented answer which will help you to guide where your application should go, I'm sorry, you'll have to be disappointed in the limitations of the time and space which we have here. But this I can tell you, IT itself by now has not been recognized as an important constitution of a board. If you look for directors of ITs on boards, you will not even find 10% of companies having directors IT. They ultimately end up as director technical, or interestingly, I found several IT people coming in as director human resources. Therefore, the kind of aspiration which leads to this question raises more questions than I can answer. But if you are looking for where to apply, well, then follow the thumbnail, follow the crowd. And then if you follow the crowd, you will be a part of the rat race. Therefore, you lose on the round what you gain on the swing. So ultimately, there is no substitute but to keep your antennas up, understand the industry trends, and most institutions have career counselors. Talk to him as and when. I can't give this answer in a public forum. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but then at least I would have guarded you against certain pitfalls, which I think are very common. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we have a question for Shri Anil Sarupji, sir. So one of our students wants to ask about the relevance of NEP for higher education. The question is, are we infrastructurally strong enough to implement national education policy?
Must understand what is the purpose of a policy. Policy is basically a roadmap, a desirable way of achieving something. That's what it says. Whether it will happen or not, only time will tell. I have my reservations on some issues. I don't disagree with the recommendations. I really admire them. My only problem is whether that will happen or not, because as I said, the policy talks about 6% allocate, 6% of the GDP to be allocated to education. This was said by Dr. Kothari long ago, but the maximum that we've had is 3.1%, and it's been going down. That being the case, if the financial backing is not there, I don't think there will be a problem with infrastructure. The second problem that I see with the policy is, unlike the higher education policy, which does promote private sector in school education, they have kept private sector at arm's length. We have not come out of the ghost of 70s and 80s in terms of school education. So there would be limitations in happening that. But the policy per se is basically, so to say, a wishful thinking in terms of what needs to happen, what ought to happen, and what is likely to happen. Whether it will happen or not, only time will tell. There's another question that I can read in the chat box, and that's a very interesting one. What is your opinion on inducting management graduates along with civil servants in administration? If you look at the people who qualify for the civil service, quite a few of them are from management institutes. I have my own batchmates who come from IIMs, many other officers who come from. So there are many management graduates that get into the IAS. But let me tell you, ultimately, and this debate has been going on for a while, for an IAS officer, I am convinced that you have to be good at managing men and women, period. If you are a good leader, if you are able to manage men and women, you don't have to become an expert in anything. Because if you do become an expert, you will start contesting with another expert. No, your expertise is only creating an environment where experts can flourish, where you can manage them, you can help them, you can advise them. That's your job. Your job is not directly to get down to become an expert yourself. So yes, management expertise is required in the civil service, and a lot of managers are coming. But what is more important is the experience that you gain as you go along in understanding people at the ground level.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we have one more question for Dr. Vinishil Gautamji, sir. So may I ask?
Yeah, please.
Sir, how is the emerging technologies will impact the business and global economy?
I'm grossly tempted to turn this over to Anil Surupji, because I thought I began my remark that universalization of global experience in a topic like this is next to impossible. I can best illustrate the trend of the answer by a narrative which I picked up in course of my casual readings, where a son wrote to his father, "Father, take it that he was in America or England or one of those fancy places people of your age love to migrate to study, hoping that the grass will be greener, but what happens there is another story." He said, "Dad, I came here to study, but I have finally found the woman that I would like to get married to, and she is such a wonderful woman. I would like to seek your blessings." To which the father replied, "Online. Well, if you are seeking the blessings online, I can also only bless you online. But would you like to tell me how much you know about this girl?" He says, "Frankly, I know a great deal. I met her on the internet. We went to the sites. We exchanged messages through the email, and I got to spend some time with her through private chat sessions, and therefore we have now decided to get married." So the father asked, "Have you ever met her?" So he said, "No, but we know each other very well on the line." Then he said, "I bless you for an online marriage, online children, and whatever happens thereafter." How do I globalize IT experiences across the world? But look, after the lighter side is said and heard, IT is a reality. It is a reality in more ways than one because it affects distance, which it digitizes. It affects time, which it expands because there are more things to do in lesser time. And above all, it creates interfaces amongst industries. But how you are able to operate it is a matter of the number of IT languages which you know. As I was preparing for this presentation, I went through certain references and I would have quoted here where I find that IT doesn't speak English or Russian or Chinese. IT speaks a language which is clearly IT. Nobody understands it. Cookies are not a cookie. Cookies are something totally different. And I have been advocating somebody bringing out a dictionary for IT expressions. And I think really time has overstepped its patience boundaries. I would have read out passages which even now I don't understand. Presumably there are in the audience people who understand IT. If they could help me to explain it and understand it, I'll be quite happy. But I'll save that part of the humor for another day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Shri Anil Swarupji, sir, there's, I think, one question in continuation to the point which you raised, ethical dilemma and privacy in your, when you were deliberating about the topic. And it is related to social media and mobile apps. Student wants to understand social media and mobile apps have taken an important place in our lives and how we should manage that online presence and offline activities and, not even overstepping when it comes to ethics and saving their own privacy.
Social media is a very powerful tool to influence opinion, to convey your messages. I remember when I did coal block auctions, I was besieged with telephone calls on getting the status. So my son told me, what are you doing? You're picking up phone every moment to respond. I said, this is what I'm doing. He said, why don't you tweet? I didn't understand what he was saying. Then he explained to me what tweet can do. And then I started tweeting the messages to the world at large. And India Today came up with my photograph saying the tweet secretary who tweets at late in the night. Good, because there is so much value to social media. It's like nuclear energy. You can use it, you can abuse it, you can misuse it. It's a question of how you use it. You can't beat them, join them, but discipline yourself. I'm a great believer in disciplining yourself. Understand the utility, futility, and the nonsense that is there in the social media. Once you understand that and draw your own lines, that's a self-discipline, then it can be an amazing tool to transform things. And I use social media quite a lot to reach out to people to convey messages. Now you can convey all sorts of messages, right, wrong. People have argued and said, why are you so active on social media? I said, then all the nonsensical people will make merry. The whole idea of setting up Nexus of Good was, and I'm using social media for that purpose, is that it had at some point in time appeared that the nation wants to know only negative things. The world has either collapsed or it's about to collapse. My contention was there's a lot of good work that is happening. Can we use social media to understand, highlight, propagate, appreciate that good work so that people start believing that good can happen because good is happening, to demonstrate to them that good is happening because the negativity was flooding the social media. So you have to contest it. In fact, yesterday, I tweeted something and it's now catching up, is that there is this, some way, some people are using social media and television channels to become hate mongers. They are just spreading hatred in the society. Now, what is the option available? Either you lie low and hope that it will die its own death. The other is to contest it. Throughout my career, 38 years, I refused to be witness to the nonsense around me. And I contested it as a civil servant. Post retirement, I'm doing precisely that, using social media for the purpose. So social media can be used positively. The boundaries have to be defined by you. I can't define your boundaries. Each one has to define it, and that's the ethical part of it. What you think is right or wrong has to be determined by you, not by me.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I think students have charged up after these discussions and these questions. And again, we have a question for Dr. Vinishil Gautam, sir. So one of our students, again, because I think they are students, they are more interested in their future in terms of IT and technology. So again, there is a question where they wants to understand future of business. What are the skill sets of a student or student should have when they are looking at business beyond 2030? Now they just want to understand that after 10 years down the line, what should be the skill set by that time they should develop in case they are looking for a future in business or IT or in generic sense.
Let me put it in a nutshell. Resilience. Ability to grow on your own. Your education doesn't finish on the day you get your certificate. It begins that day. 2, get your fundamentals right. Understand figure work. Understand combinations of figure work embedded in a soft environment where considerations of sentiments, emotions, relationships play a critical role in interpreting data. And above all, realize that education is a lifelong learning process. Unless you are keeping up with the understanding of the trends, you will never be prepared for it. In the school I went to for my senior Cambridge examination, at the age of 14, 15, we were having career counselors. And we used to get the best because the head of the school believed that career is not planned when you are doing your bachelor's or master's. Career is planned in learning to explore, learning to understand, learning to be sensitive, learning to be a growing person. And then you channelize it as per your own aptitude. And that, as you can see, is a mouthful. So if you are truly interested, go back to Ajay Kumarji, and I know I'm putting more on his plate than he already has, but I know he does it well. This is what coming to an educational institution about, and that's where you will end up 10 years or 20 years later. If you are a self-growing person, lifelong learner, you will be comfortable, provided your fundamentals are in position. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Before ending this session of question answer, I would like to take one more question because I've been continuously getting pings on my phone and I just don't want to left out any student. This question is for Shri Anil Swarupji, sir. Sir, customer data and activities being used by companies is posing threat to privacy. How to protect your yet personalize the offerings?
I think what is wrong with consumer data being used by the companies? I see nothing wrong in it. I am consuming something, he's reaching out to me. You can block him if you want to. I mean, I would like to keep it open. If I like something, which as a consumer I'm consuming publicly, if someone uses that data to come back to me, if I can block him, but what is wrong in user? If I were him, I would use him. It's an open world. I mean, don't you, when people were asking questions, where should we go? What is the future? What are you trying to do? You're trying to understand the market. So is the producing company or service providing company. They're trying to understand the market and you are a consumer. So data goes there. I see nothing wrong in that if they come to me. And as I said, you have tools to block these people reaching out to you. Use those tools, but don't kill this. When I talked of privacy, that was slightly in a different context. But as far as my consumer preferences are concerned, which I'm publicly consuming, what is wrong in it?
Right, sir. Thank you. Sir, I know I'm overstepping if both of our eminent panelists are busy, but still I get one question and the request is please to take that. If Dr. Vinishil Gautamji, sir, is available for another 2-3 minutes, I would like to ask the question, sir, with your permission, if you may.
But Priyanka, make it literally 2 minutes because I have another webinar waiting and I have already stretched myself to a point where I think I'm getting reminders. And after this answer, I would like to request Dr. Ajay Kumar's permission to withdraw. I don't wish to be rude, but I don't wish to be rude to anyone. So I have to.
Sir, I completely understand. And thank you so much for another 2 minutes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, please raise the question.
Yes, sir. So we have seen that many organizations are responsible for harming the nature and even the governments in developing as well as developed nations are not doing sufficient. So how would you like to, sir, answer this question?
That sounds like one of those puzzles. Can you repeat that for me?
We have seen that many organizations are responsible for harming the nature, and even the government in developing as well as developed nations are not doing sufficient. So how do the management change with technology for the future? I think that's the continuation of the same, I think, question.
Well, it's a quasi-philosophical question. I'm reminded of a quote from Mark Twain, and the quotation is, "For each one kills the thing he loves." So what do you do with it? Name me a love affair which doesn't have its ups and downs. Name me a relationship where one has not caused as much hurt as he believes he has been hurt. So if you blame the government for hurting, what you are saying is the government tried to achieve something, but it was done inadequately. I don't go after this kind of analysis. I look at the intention. If the intention is good, nothing happens without somebody losing something somewhere. And this is something which I have found to be a truth after having consulted at the highest levels in this country, and I might say in many international bodies. You have to take certain steps which will be painful for some constituent element in the entire picture. But you have to look at the larger good when you do it. Don't try to please everyone, because you can't try to please everyone. And so far as government, who is the government? The government is we. Today, I've sent my column for Monday on something similar, because each Monday I write in a newspaper column. I don't want to refer to that here, where I have said that who said that oligarchies are all wrong, or oligarchies are meant to be as emancipated and as generous as possible. What is being held against IT? It will lead to concentration of power. There is concentration of power already. You do it through regulations, you do it through the way you administer. You have to understand the realities of life. I'm sorry, but I don't see lamenting situations which are by definition bound to be mixed situations. Name me a person. Most of you would have experienced love in some manifestation, and name me a person who has fallen in love only once. You fall in love, you get hurt, you regret it, you go back to falling in love. Mixed baggage is the baggage of life. You have to see the intentions, you have to see the outcome, you have to keep growing and learning with it. I'm afraid that's the best which can be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Professor Dr. Ajay Kumar, sir. So would you like to...
many thanks to both speakers, great personalities, and the answers were very subtle, and I believe that all the concerned students or delegates who raised the question, they must have got very satisfying answer with sometime with satiric tone too. So I extend my sincere thanks to both the esteemed guests, and I look forward to their association in future also, because knowledge sharing platforms always provide opportunities to learners to get more and more, and as told by guests too, that learning remains a lifelong process. So they must keep on imparting their knowledge, their experiences, their sensations, their apprehensions, which they have received over the years. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have indicated my email ID, so if there are any more questions, they can be raised through email, and I would try and respond to them. Thank you very much. God bless all of you. Thank you.
Well, since invitation is the best flattery, I will follow Anil Swarupji's path and mention email ID, which you can use if you wish, gautamvinay@hotmail.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Dr. Swarup, should we continue with the program of panel discussion?
We are ready, ma'am.
Okay, sir.
Ajayji, may I withdraw, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Knowledge is power. Information is liberating. Education is the premise of progress in every society. With this thought, we are marking the beginning of our panel discussion session. on digital transformation and future businesses. The eminent keynote speakers of the panel discussion are Dr. D.K. Batra, Professor IMI, New Delhi, Dr. Sanjiva Dubey, Professor Birla Institute of Management Technology, Mr. Ritesh Joseph, Director Digital Marketing BlackRock, Mr. Maheshwer Peri, Founder and Chairman Career 360 Degree, Pathfinder Publishing Private Limited, Mr. Nixon Joseph, President and Chief Operating Officer, SBI Foundation Mumbai, Mr. Vineet Suri, Vice President, Dish TV, Mr. Dev Kaushik, Founder, ShopView and Vice President, Sidereal Technologies. A very convivial welcome. To proceed further with the session, I may take this opportunity to introduce our first keynote speaker of the discussion, Dr. D.K. Batra.
Ma'am, DK Batra sir will join after 5 minutes. We may start with the Dr. Sanjiva Dubey.
Okay.
Please invite the second guest. Guests are there.
Okay, sir.
I would like. Vineet Suri is also there.
Right, sir. So I'll start with the Dr. Sanjiva Dubey. Dr. Sanjiva Dubey is an IT strategy and innovation specialist. He takes great interest in mentoring people, startup teams, and organizations through informal interactions. A visiting professor to IIMs and an author. A former member, IBM Academy of Technology, member NASCOM Startup Mentor Panel, Dr. Batra has managed mega multi-billion IT outsourcing projects and mega IT operations. His expertise lies in the IT strategy, innovation and management, business transformation, and management consulting. I would now request Dr. Sanjiva Dubey to please take the platform to share his valuable thoughts with us.
All right. Good morning to you. I'm just trying to put my video on, but hopefully you will be able to get my audio. Okay, so let me just start with sharing my. Can you just let me share my screen?
Yes, tech support, please.
You may please share, sir.
Okay, so I know this is a very important seminar going on, and every year I get invited here. My pleasure to Dr. Ajay Kumar and all our senior faculty there, Dr. Swarup, to consider me every time. So I wanted to leave some thoughts behind for all of us. I will talk more in terms of the how part, okay? Because the digital transformation, industry 4.0, and future of business is lot very hazy. So going forward, it is very important for us to understand how to take this journey. Okay, we go to seminars and participate in various conferences. A lot of people talk about possibilities, but how to convert the possibilities into reality, that is something which we need to consider ourselves. Okay, so I am defining this digital transformation journey into 4 phases. Okay. And any digital transformation which is to be taken, whether irrespective of the industry, very simple 4 phases. You assess what you want to do, you target where you want to be, you plan or design, and finally implement. Now I am going to share with you some of the some of my typical simpler models to understand as to how all these phases will be managed or can be managed. Okay, so and you can see on the left hand right hand side on the top, I am also mentioning about these various stages of the 4-stage process which I am describing. So starting off with, I'm using a model which is modified Venkatraman model, I call it. Initially proposed by Henderson and Venkatraman about 20 years ago. And that time the internet was not popular or not very much prevalent in the scene. It is a 92-93 based model published in IBM System Journal. So basically this model talks about, and I have added this last part, So this model talks about that amount of transformation is commensurate to the benefit to the firm. So if you have got more changes you are bringing about, then you will have more benefit. And then how IT is going to impact these changes? It has got a step process, starting with simple automation to integration to business process innovation, model innovation, scope redefinition, and finally, business ecosystem innovation. What is the current scene we are witnessing, where we sometimes say Uberization of economy, okay, or aggregator model, or YouTube-based model where user-generated content has become very, very prevalent, and YouTube is making a lot of money without creating a single video. So these all these let me take a very classical IRCTC. Okay, so IRCTC is, let's say, a very traditional company. Their job was to book railway tickets, so they started with the automation of their reservation offices, and then later on they integrated offices all across them, and then they went into business process innovation. They said, look, you don't have to come to the reservation office. You can book it on using the online booking. And what it led to huge amount of flexibility for the users. It led to a lot of saving in the real estate, and it also enabled people to keep trying various options which they could not do when they are standing in front of the babu and he says no tickets available and returns your reservation slip. And many of us who have gone through this process would remember them. Then it goes to the business model innovation. Business model innovation is that you start generating some revenue out of other activities. Okay. For example, Hotmail, when it came, it said, I will be giving you the free email service. And before that, it was something which was not very much known, that how can you give a service without charging anything. And today it has become a norm, which is called freemium model. Then you go to the next step of business scope redefinition, where you try to do that, can I do something more? So IRCTC starts selling railway airlines ticket, although they do not fly any plane. They became the aggregator for travel and tours. They are booking the hotels and then creating options for Vaishno Devi Yatra and so on. Now, a traditional company can go through all this step, but there are some few startup companies and then some people who are companies which are long-term thinking. They come out with a disruptive model, asset light model. For example, Airbnb does not own a single property. Maybe they own a very few property, but they have got the more market capitalization than the Marriott hotel chain. Okay, so business ecosystem innovation. Now this is basically a chart where you need to assess, your company needs to assess where you belong to. Are you at that automation stage? Then you can go to integration. Are you at the process innovation stage or business model innovation stage or scope innovation stage? You need to define. Not everybody can cross all the charms. Not everybody can cross evolutionary to revolutionary to transformative or disruptive. Okay. Now you say, fine, now I will be assessing it. What do you want me to do? My next chart says so. So basically you need to take 3 steps. One definitely is your technology change. Second change, if you have to do, is about your process change. Okay, if you do not change the process, you will end up with automating your existing chaos, and then the chaos will happen faster at a higher cost. So if you look at this digital transformation cube, it has got 3 ordinates: the technology being 1, processes being 2nd, and the people, culture, and leadership, which is the difficult part. The most difficult part of any transformation journey is how do I change our culture and leadership and people, which includes the skill set and power struggle and so on. If you do all this, then we are going to achieve digital transformation. Suppose we do not do it, what will happen? If I only change the technology, we will be ending with automation, 10x. X is, let's say, business as usual. If your current performance is at the X level, you are doing this automation, you can get 10x. If you can do both together, then you will have digitization, which is 100x. If you do all the 3 together, then it will be 1000x. Let's say you have not changed the process and you have all changed the people and leadership and culture and technology, then you will end up with chaotic automation. The automation will be there. People are interested in doing it, but it is cumbersome for doing it. You can keep doing your process changes. You can make one-time process improvement. You can also do continuous improvement. But basically, it will not lead to transformation journey. You are only playing in the process coordinate. There is a hidden cube also. This hidden cube is a frustration where you have got no change in the technology, no change in the process, and then but the people are more empowered, more which likely to happen with our millennial generation, generation Z, and so on. These people are tech savvy, and then you ask them to do something manual or ask them to work in an old way. Obviously, they are going to be frustrated. So use this cube for your step number one for targeting as a matter of fact, as to what is your challenge there, what all various things you need to change, technology, process, people, or all the three together. Okay, so next one is these 9 technologies. These are all technology about Industry 4.0, and then I'm just leaving it for a minute, which are enabling technologies. You may have to pick up some, you may have to pick up some other. The green one shows that this has become more or less reality. The others are the slightly darker ones are someone where the things are taking place, and then the lighter ones are things which are still going to come in the near future. So one needs to be considering about this technology because these are the vehicles through which the Industry 4.0 transformation is likely to take place. So I am leaving with you an approach which I have encapsulated as 5 vowels. You all remember vowels in our grammar: A-E-I-O-U. So what do you do whenever you have a new technology coming up? For example, AI or facial recognition. Facial recognition, very interesting example. 2 days back, I read in the newspaper that Delhi police awarded to a head constable out of turn promotion because she was able to reunite some 1,400 children. Okay, how could they reunite? Using technology. Okay, you finding out the call record, you finding out the facial recognition, finding out where the person was last seen, blah blah blah. Okay, so FR technology is becoming more a reality. Voice enabled command is becoming more a reality. 20 years ago, when I was a consultant in IBM and we were proposing to Tata, proposing, sorry, to Mahindra for their new Scorpio launch to have a voice activated window. And the use case was that a lady comes back and she has got her hand fully henna drawing or design has been done. She wants to use, she can't use the window okay. So in that case, she's just saying the voice activated command. That looked to be very amusing at that point in time, but today the voice activated lifts have become a reality because people do not want to touch lift buttons for the fear of the spread of the pandemic. So assess the technology, find out which technology you can use, find out how you can explore opportunities, find out where you can apply, invest in innovating the process, operationalize and test it, do a soft launch, do not do a big bang approach, and then use extensively once you are comfortable. Okay, so use the 5 vowel approach. So now I am moving to the design part of it. The implementation, I have got a very simple model which I am suggesting to you, which I call it a bicycle model. So the bicycle model, there are various parts of the bicycle model. Basically, the front wheel is to find a business problem or opportunity. The rear wheel is where you deliver and solve the problem. The paddle denotes you have to take a small steps. You just make one paddle, and then you go a little move forward, and that is how you catch up the speed. The frame is your methodology with some way of doing things. I have just showed you some glimpses of how a methodology would look like. Seat is the control, handle is your strategy, and then brake is your risk management. Do not forget the spoke. Spoke is the people, because ultimately the people lead to the transformation. If you are spoke, maybe one spoke or 2 spoke. I have ridden bicycle for a very, very long time in school and college. I know 1 or 2 spoke, if brakes doesn't matter, but it becomes dangerous, and suddenly the bicycle, the entire rim may collapse. So very careful about the spoke part of it. And finally, spring is the feedback which you get from either your customer or the user. So I'm moving to the implementation part. And when you want to lead a transformation journey, I am proposing you to become a mountaineer. Okay, mountaineer is someone who is always climbing new mountains, and they're always finding new challenges. And the tools used by mountaineers, and they have got a parallel in the transformation. Binoculars means that you need to have research. Magnifying glasses means qualify the opportunity. Backpack is your intellectual capital. ISACs is the ability to engage and present. If I do not engage with you, if I don't get your attention in the first 30 seconds, I don't think you are going to listen to me for long. So it is very important to present, engage very well, and then analyze your client requirement and then measure your direction and so on. And this is my last chart. This last chart says, beware of the hype. Basically, ultimately, you have to do these three areas. These are the simple three areas which you have been doing it for ages. And you need to transform your customer processes, operational processes, or business model. Okay, very easy. And the first starting point is your customer process, where you can understand your customer better. Your revenue growth can take place. Your customer touch points can become better. All people are taking the chatbots and so on to interact with the customer at any point in time. The call center may not be present. All lines may be busy in the call center, but the chatbot is always available. Okay, no matter how many people log on their website. You have found this difference, and this is where the digital transformation is all about. Okay. Then the operational processes, we have been using the technology for a long time, but I'm adding one more bullet here, which is called data-driven decision. Now that you will be able to digitize your processes, you will be knowing about it. Very simple. My Google Map tells me that last time how much travel it has taken me. Okay, from point A to point B. The data is predicting that how much time it will take at what point in time of the day, so that I can plan my day better. I think most of us use Google Map extensively to plan our journey. Of course, nowadays we do not venture out much, but data-driven decisions. And then finally, you need to look at your business model. Are you able to modify your business digitally? You want to create a new digital business, or you are living with your ecosystem disruption, which is, if you can afford to do that, maybe most welcome for doing it. So finally, I will end my presentation here by saying namaste and thank you to you. I will wait for any questions which may come up later, or depending upon what the organizers or the uh, MC has got in mind. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Dubey, for this technical session. Yes, we will be taking questions, but at the end of the entire panel discussion. Now, I would like to welcome our next expert for the panel discussion, Mr. Ritesh Joseph. Mr. Ritesh Joseph, Director, Digital Marketing, BlackRock, is an experienced and accomplished professional with more than 18 years of experience, marketing leader with ability to lead diverse and global marketing teams. Expertise in digital marketing with track record of pioneering digital strategies to improve marketing and sales performance. I would request Mr. Joseph to kindly take the platform to share his views with us. So please.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity that you guys have given, and really happy to come and share my experience. So the topic that I've been asked to talk on is transformation in marketing with digital platforms. It's a very relevant and interesting topic. Been in marketing for probably over a decade now, and I've seen the shift happening in marketing. Interestingly, with uh, from offline to online, um, and that shift has been because of the emergence of internet, mobile devices, applications. People have started spending more time online, engaging with these, with devices and applications versus offline. So marketing has to respond. Marketing is all about identifying where your potential customer is, reaching out to them, engaging them, and hopefully converting them for whatever product or services that you sell. So uh, with this shift of people from offline to online, digital platforms have become very important. For any organization to really identify what are the right platforms they need to be on, as per, of course, as per their business model or as per where they would find their clients or customers. And, with this, we have seen, the markets are flooded with various platforms that they, offer. And it's upon the business to figure out what are the right platforms that they need to be on in order to, get the customers. So I'll talk a little bit about what these platforms offer and um, what marketing is actually trying to do with in today's world with the kind of platforms that are available. So the first thing is as Sir mentioned in his presentation a little while back, data-driven decision making. I think that's huge. Every organization is sitting on loads of data, whether it's their own data, which is first party or second party or third party data. And uh, it, it's quite challenging if you don't have the right platform to decode that data and utilize the data for your campaigns or to interact with your customers. So there are platforms available that help you do that. And therefore, it is very important for you to choose the right platforms that can enable you to, take the data-driven decisions. And here I'm talking about millions of data and billions of transactions or interactions that happen online. So it has to be something which could be done through an intelligent system software. Um, the next thing the platforms offer is hyper personalization. Uh, Today is a time when there's so many choices. If you want to buy something, you have so many platforms. You can go to Amazon or Flipkart or even on Google now you can research and find out. Even small players have come up with their own websites to offer you products and services. So uh, which has definitely spoiled the customers to an extent that everyone looks for their own customized solution, uh, and companies have to figure that out, that how do they personalize it for people, for their prospective customers. So personalization is going to be really, really important for engaging people at the right time and delivering most tailored experiences, and that too at scale. It's not about just one or two individuals. It's if you have a huge customer base, then you have to really do that very intelligently. And I think I could possibly quote Amazon as probably one of the leaders in this space, where you all have experienced if you browse something, you show interest, how they start targeting you with more personalized things. Or even Netflix is a great example, where you watch something and they try to understand what are the things that you like watching, and accordingly their recommendation keeps coming. So that's like personalization. And then lastly, I would say deploying AI and machine learning capabilities to facilitate decisions. It sort of goes hand in hand, as I said, data-driven abilities, that these platforms offers. So I'll talk about certain platforms that a lot of companies, marketing especially, is investing heavily these days in order to achieve personalization, in order to achieve data-driven decision making, in order to achieve, retain and engage customers. The first platform I would probably talk about is, a customer data platform, the short form is CDP. And there are companies that offer this kind of platforms. Salesforce has its platform that it offers, Adobe, Telium. There are many big players and small players. Based on the budget of the organization, you can accordingly go ahead with. But what these platforms actually do is they um, they create a 360-degree view of your customer, and which tells the marketer, makes the marketer way more intelligent about what the customer is actually looking for. And I can give you an example. Let's say um, there was a webinar. Somebody, let's say your customer attended a webinar, and he has shown interest in, let's say, XYZ product or service. Then you have sent an email, follow-up email to that person. Um, uh, and then the person through that email, let's say, come onto your website and have further explored those products. So it is really important that the platform, you have a platform which is able to stitch all of that data together, so you can have that 360-degree view, and which is stored in your system, that tomorrow, whenever you know that I need to, there's a new product that I'm launching as an organization, and I need to reach out to customers who have shown interest in this kind of a product. And there you go, you have all that information available in your system, and you can easily segment your audience and reach out to them with your new products and services. The other technology I would probably talk about is data management platform, DMP. And again, there are players like Adobe, Salesforce, who are offering solutions here. I would say it's a step ahead of what I just talked about, CDP. DMP is slightly wider. CDP only manages your first party data. First party means the data that you own as an organization. It manages that and helps you utilize that in the most effective way. DMP also helps you manage the second and the third party data. And I'll give you an example here. um, Say, for instance, you have been browsing a particular product that you are interested in exploring or purchasing. Um, and then uh, after a while, you would notice that you are being targeted about a similar product through an ad, either on your Gmail or while on your Facebook or some other platform. How does that happen? That happens because of this particular technology, where um, through this technology, you can actually stitch consumers' interest into particular product or service, not just on your own platforms, but on other platforms uh, where you have sort of a tie-up, or say that the platform offers to utilize the data. So, and again, it's very powerful because you get even wider perspective, understanding about your client, and what their interests are or their preferences are. Then I'll move on to an interesting technology called marketing automation. And what this technology actually does is it automates your a lot of marketing efforts, and instead of an individual trying to do, run a lot of campaigns on his own, you can actually schedule, plan, and automate all these communications at the right time. And the system is so intelligent that it would know when to send out a communication. Like, I'll give you an example. Um, if you have to reach out to your client base, let's say thousands or millions of people, million is probably a little too much, but let's say thousand, you have to reach out to, let's say, do an email campaign for, let's say, 30,000-40,000 people. You and let's say those people are based out of different countries. You'll have to make sure that you're sending out an email when it's the right time for that particular individual to open and read that email. if you send out an email right now to somebody in the US, there is a very high possibility that it'll get buried under a lot of other emails that will come later on. And when the person gets up in the morning and they check their email, they'll probably ignore your email, or the chances of reading your email is way too less. So all these automation platforms, helps you understand when is the best time, and they use machine learning and artificial intelligence capabilities uh, to identify for particular set of segment when is the best time, when to reach out. And then they offer a great lead generation platform as well, by for example, I'm reaching out with an email to my prospects. You're not yet my client. You're not, you haven't bought anything. You're not in my database. So you are in my database, but as prospect, but not as client. And through these automation platforms, you can actually uh, do a lead ranking and a lead scoring, where you send out an email. If somebody clicks on the email and read through your contact, you know that they are possibly interested. So you allocate some point, and if somebody clicks and comes onto your website and further explores, you that becomes even a higher value lead for you. And let's say if somebody downloads something, or request an appointment, or request a conversation with your sales, that person becomes a hot lead for the business. And therefore, who would be a marketing qualified lead versus a sales lead, which is the lead that I can pass on to my sales team, and they can possibly convert, versus what are the leads that I need to still keep in my funnel and warm them, and see if at some point they get interested and convert them. And then lastly, I'll talk about technology of continuous testing and uh, targeting. Um, I've heard that Amazon runs hundreds of tests simultaneously on their websites, and these tests are A/B test or multivariant test. These tests basically helps you understand uh, what is it that the customer interacts with the most. Which design works best, um, or what kind of experience do I need to show in order to get a better conversion. So testing is really important because it allows you to take an informed decision um, about what to change on your website, or on any of your offering, versus a human guess. So it eliminates the guesswork, which makes your offering much more precise, and therefore you would have a greater chance of converting. Um, And targeting is basically, as you learn, then you would want to tailor the experience, quickly change the experience, and target people with the new experience. So these are some of the examples of the platforms which marketing is heavily investing in, and utilizing in order to engage their customers, reach out to their customers, convert them on the digital platforms, through digital marketing these days. Um, I believe the Q&A will happen towards the end. So I'll, quickly move on to the next topic that I've been asked to talk about is the future. Well, honestly, that's very difficult one to address. 5 or 6 years ago, um, who would have thought that Netflix would change the way people view television, um, or probably 10 years ago, at least in India, who would have thought that Amazon would change the way the people buy products. So 5 years down the line, honestly, it's also integrated that digital marketing would would have to be on top of the emerging technology. 5 years down the line, I don't know what kind of new iPhone or its capabilities that will be available, or a new device that may come up, or how people would be consuming the content. I think you have to take probably not even a year, probably 6 months at a time to really understand what are the emerging trends, and making sure that you are ready uh, to embrace the change and accordingly modify your business. Because one thing will remain constant, and that is your customer. You know, so customers will adopt new platforms. Customers sooner or later will embrace the change, and therefore it is very important for any marketing function to uh, be, if they if they want to be relevant, they have to really make sure that they are uh, watching the space, understanding what are the changes happening in the industry, in the technology, and quickly adapting, whether it is a new platform. So with that, I'll probably end. Happy to take questions now or later.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. And it's great that you brought up about buying habits, emerging trends, and changes. And it is said that data is the new oil. And we thank both of our experts to raise this valid point in context to the theme of our panel discussion. Yes, we will take questions at the end of the entire panel discussion. To proceed
Sure.
further with the session, I may like to introduce our next keynote speaker, Dr. Batra. Dr. Batra is a professor in marketing area at IMI and holds a PhD in management and MBA marketing for Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi. He pursued fashion management at the Department of Fashion Management, Fashion Institute of Technology, New York, University, USA. He has also been a UNDP Research Fellow to the EU and Brazil, working extensively in the product development area in 16 European and South American countries. He graduated in BTech Textile Tech from Technological Institute of Textile, MD University. His longest stint has been at NIFT New Delhi as the head of the Department of Fashion Management Studies and as head of academic affairs. He has been the founding CEO of Fashion Design Council of India. He was on the PhD Research Board of Jamia Hamdard University. He was also member Board of Studies of UP Tech University. He has also worked as advisor to the Ministry of Information Technology. He has authored many books and research papers. He has provided consultancy and training services to various corporates with Raymond India, Madura Garments, Gokuldas Exports, AB and Ambro, ITC, and many more. He was also a consultant to the International Trade Center Geneva, UNCTAD. I may now request Dr. Batra to kindly take the platform and share his valuable insights with us on the topic.
Thank you very much, Priyanka, and also thanks to Dr. Swarup for bringing me over here, and special thanks to Dr. Ajay, who is the spearheading this institute and also the conference. I'm not an industry person and a marketing specialist, so I like the word data is oil, which is the Jared Leonard, and I was watching his video yesterday just to spruce up my knowledge, little knowledge that I have on digital and a 4.0, which is explained as the next industrial revolution in terms of technology, manufacturing, and marketing. It spans the entire landscape. Um, Business as usual is frightening, which is what Jared Leonard, I'm quoting him, as it was quoted by you. Um, it's frightening with the kind of changes that are going to be happening. So I'll first talk about future changes and then maybe take you over to some of the repetitive things which my earlier keynote speaker very well in a very detailed manner spoke about. Business as usual is deafening, difficult, dramatic, but it's creating new efficiencies. Now, whole the focus of the operations people has been to create efficiencies and effectiveness in the way we read, in the way we learn, in the way we manufacture things, in the way we do internet, in the way we advertise, in the way we live. All this is going to change. Now, disruptive technologies started happening with data, with convergence, with a lot of issues which were talked about just now. It's important that Now we see the kind of changes that are being not initiated by us, but by the Internet of Things and the technology. It's very frightening. And it's going to change us in next 20 years more than what has happened in last 200 years. I mean, for one of the examples given was Netflix, for instance. I wanted to expand that argument by saying, and I wanted to agree with what was said before, they don't own a movie company. The Airbnb, which is the biggest hotel chain, does not have even one hotel. Uh, Uber does not have one car. So it's the way the population is changing. Every 2 seconds, a person joins LinkedIn. That's equal to the population of the entire Ivy League schools. It's important that we start looking at these changes which are happening to the world. Initially, if you were to look at the last decade, the changes are happening because we were making efforts. Digital technology was coming in. We were moving towards Internet of Things. We were moving towards 2.0 to 2.3.0. We started talking about some of the changes the technology brought us. Some of the changes were made by innovators who were open-minded, and some of the technological changes happened inside closed companies like IBM. We find that more and more companies are becoming open-ended in terms of innovations because it's impacting the world. The next stage of this change is frightening, which is about getting into robotification. So as augmented learning and machine learning comes in, we find that a lot of human population will become free, free of jobs, free because that's business as usual. So unless we are able to look at a workflow, which is what one of the important studies that I'll quote it from that study, Deloitte recently published a study on 4.0 manufacturing and linked it to kind of changes that are happening in the world. It's very, very important to look at the fact that this 4.0 is bringing in about changes which are not in the control of human being always. So this robotification is going to take us to create platforms which have caused us digital addiction and a huge dependency on using this huge amount of data. But I also want to take you to the flip side of it. While we talk about big data, the CRM, traditional CRMs, 80% of the profiles in the United States of America are lost. What is the point in using technology when we can't use it for intelligence? 70% of profiles in Europe get lost. I'm talking about Europe and US. I mean, forget about India, which would be much more horrendous. So while the technology has come in, when I still make a call to Airtel, while I'm one of their esteemed customer who spends a lot of money on Airtel, I don't get a quick go through. I'm still have to make wait in spite of the fact the algorithms are there, in spite of the fact machine learning is there, and uh, service industry is one of the ones which adopted it faster than others. I think there is an important learning, which is we need to look at our workflows again. Look at a beautiful company like which gets talked about in almost all Apple. Now, I don't find them exciting. I find the design exciting. I've read books, which most of you might have also, on the founder about design being the essential, fundamental soul of human being, and data is should be driving our design, not the other way around. What is the strategy, marketing strategy of an Apple? Recently, I bought an Apple iPad for my daughter because I like more Android platform digital devices. You cannot upgrade, so you have to buy a new one when it comes in. And there are queues and people talk about, and the media who are the bruha, and it goes on digital media and social media. People are getting. Do you think we can live in a world where we will recycle, we will not be able to recycle any of these devices? We are moving towards a world where, as one of the consulting companies, I'm forgetting the name, it's in top big five, which is called circular economy. Now, unless we think of circular economy and we link it to digital world, this whole Leonardo's vision, which is data is the oil, will frighteningly prove to be right. Robots could take us over. We're using these to do what? To make them as our servants. If the servant becomes the master, is my professorial thought for you to look at this change. He also talks about optimize, upgraded, and efficiency. Now, there are two sides to this coin, obviously. So, and professors have this bad habit of looking at both the sides and not giving any actual practical inputs. But important part is as we're destined to merge with machines. So, one thought is if as a human being, I start wearing a Google goggle, I start looking at getting wired, and somebody starts working on my genes, and somebody starts tampering with chromosomes. Will we build a supercomputer in a chip which will be faster than the efficiency of a human being by 2030, as most futurists predict about? Or will they alter our genome sequence and build devices inside, whereas the human becomes the supercomputer? Frightening thoughts. It's important that we start looking at the fact that digital technology is there to help us improve our efficiency, to bring in convergence. This Internet of Things brings in a lot of data. Data is the oil of um, technology, but it's also important that we also use connectivity as an oxygen. Now, this connectivity is not about just using Internet of Things and data or about using social. It's also about the fact that now with automation replacing people, the careers will have a small shelf life. अभी ऑडियो है ना, ये अभी रिकॉर्ड करके कोई भी इसको पिक करके for the gentleman Mr. Ritesh talked beautiful stuff which some of it I understood, but some of it was not. I'm not a practitioner. Um so this data capsules could be done, obviating the necessity of a teacher probably in this whole. So this work of intelligence is making us irrelevance is going to become an important issue. How do I become relevant to this disruptive world, which is going to be in 2030? As I talk about future, in 2014, in a seminar I talked about, which was uh, managed by DMA, the Delhi Management Association, along with IMA, I spoke about the world in which people will lose jobs, robotification. वो तो पहले आ चुका है ना. So future is already there today. It's not happening in 2030. Now, what happens in 2030 is beyond our imagination. So it's important. One of the learnings which is important, and I'm quoting this study, is important that we start looking at circular economy, because we're going to be living on a planet where our children will not forgive us for bringing in so much of these digital and technology crap that we are building through these apples, through this outdated machines and chips which will go into our human body. They would want to probably simply live like as they live in Denmark on bicycles and with nature. Extremely crucial. So this convergence is important, which was talked about. I think you're already probably a lot of light has been thrown on, but it's important that there are three important changes which are taking place. One is the cognitive, in the world of cognitive and artificial intelligence and robotification. The other is Internet of Things, and third is the cloud. These are now obviously removing these barriers between distinctive industries. A travel industry or taxi or a sub, everybody has now started looking at shared economy, isn't it? If you're going to be living in a world where ownership is not going to be defined, where you have co-working spaces, it's already happening. No, the future is already here. We used to talk about co-working spaces in 2010. वो already हो रहा है. So this new digital landscape is beyond the singular. I'm quoting one of the consulting companies. The new digital landscape also means we moved beyond the singular inspirational moment. It's now being able to market the speed of expectation. The speed, the second important thing is, one was human beings and their relationship with nature and circular economy. The second important thing, which I see, is about going beyond the singular inspirational moment, but going through the speed of expectation. If you are going to be living in a wired and connected world, where the young man who would probably get married digitally online and maybe would be talking to more times to a bot than to his own wife or to his own spouse, uh, these boundaries are going to get, and they are getting already at a deafening speed moving on. My fear is that not only marketing will change, and this rafts of data, which will become piles, and 1.7 MB of new information, which is created every second for human being on this planet, will not only provide huge opportunities, but also bring in a lot of issues and problems. So the CMOs are increasingly looking at whether it's B2B or B2C, which is where we'll use this. Human beings have to have important, uh, being an important key or part of the chain in the entire value chain, as we talk about, and most these consulting companies talk about. The third important thing that I uh, see is the thanks to social media channels, everyone is recognizing the opportunity to do which Mr. Ritesh was very well in a very detailed manner talking about email to socially using the network for marketing value chain. Unlocking this insight behind the data is still a human thing, because unless these robots maybe they will have human emotions, etc., and they start taking over the world, they could hijack the world if you give them emotions. So the important trend that I see is human beings will probably not allow robots to take over. They are so-called the smartest, but they will not remain the smartest after 2030. They'll be outlived by a machine which can think faster, which would think more, and which, if bringing in emotions into it, it would obviously capture you than you capturing the technology to help you to do what. It takes me back to a saying in which some team of developed world went into an underdeveloped village in India, and they saw a villager who was sleeping, and they woke him up and they said, अभी आप ना ये करिए, आपकी खेती बढ़ जाएगी. उसने बोला क्या? Then they said कि इससे आपके घर में धान खेती ज्यादा होगी, तो क्या ज्यादा पैसे आएंगे, तो क्या आप चैन से सो सकोगे? कहता है, I was sleeping before you came in and disturbed me. Important point is understanding consumer behavior is going to be very, very key as to what we want. This phase of change is so fast. It's now engulfing like a big monster, which in the Buddhist text is written as a karakura, which feeds on air and becomes a big, gigantic, is going to eat us up. So unless we start using these disruptions to make a world which is more ergonomic, which is more ecological friendly, where my child is not going to punish me or curse me for bringing him to a world which is where the robots and he found it difficult to find his relevance as a human being. Consumer expectations is the fourth point that I'm going to talk about. Um, uh, in fact, I would love to finish it faster, but also encourage questions so that we could, sort of um, go into much more understanding of what's happening. I'm only a humble professor and not know to as much as now companies are getting into this net promoter score, for instance. So marketing may you get what is customer longevity. You have a lot of data to see how we connect, how do we present a 360-degree view, which Mr. Ritesh was talking about. It's important that disruption in workflow needs to be mapped. As I talked about circular economy, workflow is extremely crucial. So what do I buy when I go to a supermarket or buy it from Amazon, as was talked about? Now, Amazon, in fact, will probably be much more trusted than the newspaper or the fake news that are there on social media these days. It could deliver me fresh meat. It could deliver me fresh veggies. It could deliver me fresh whatever from wherever in the world. Now, if that starts happening, we'll have to look at not bringing in efficiency into the supply chain, which everyone is talking about. We'll need to think of a disruptive way that could I finish that work which could be done in 10 days in 5 minutes? If you were to talk to these top consulting organizations and their Western counterparts, the technology vision of Accenture, for instance, if you were to go through their report on technology vision, it's all about using disruptive technology to find ways and means to compress the time and speed of expectation, as I talked about. Extremely crucial. So let me just take you through one of the important I'm sorry about the background noise, but can't help it. There are marriages happening. Okay, so yeah, I've lost that page. Doesn't matter. So it's important that we start looking at the speed of things from the perspective of not only circularity, but also from the perspective of the fact that workflows need to be managed. So there are three, four things. One is the horizontal integration, the vertical integration in marketing and supply chain systems. It's also important to see the impact that these changes will bring in through the Internet of Things and convergence and the data at one of the sites to be able to bring in new vistas of learning and thinking. I would like to rest my case. Uh, Somebody has written, in this digital era, we can focus on potential customer. There are so many competitors competing on social networks. It's enough to only contact through emails and make a brand and successful emblem. Absolutely right. But the important issue is all this, that social media trends that we are seeing. I'm one of the generations which um, grew up by studying in an MBA college when the computer was in a big room and we were charged fee, but we were not allowed to go into the room because this was like a sacred temple. To going through a laptop, then going through new technology, then going through this, and also going through the fact that we are looking at emergence of uh, big data and robotification, and also now an algorithm which manages my bank accounts and also does my transactions sitting at home. Customer is important, as Himanshi Sharma writes to everyone. It's also important to the fact that customer not only has become important, but also dominates this process speed at which it is going to change us. If we are going to become irrelevant, for whom Tolstoy had written, for whom the bell tolls, is going to be an important question. I rest my case. So the important things that I feel is about convergence, is about data. We've already heard all these through illustrious speakers before me, but it's also important that we start mapping future for us. We start looking at connectivity, convergence, data, robotification, using new kinds of disruptions that are coming in to back to taking us to live life in a much better manner. Thank you very much. And I would like to take either question now or later. Thank you.
We'll take the questions at the end of the discussion. Thank you, Dr. Batra. Thank you for talking about changes happening in the area of information technology, about IoT, big data, machine learning, and robotics. And sustainability and circular economy is rightly the way forward now. And very, very rightly said about the marketing strategy of Apple. You know, iPads and iPhones, of course, after 2 to 3 years, they become or render useless because they stop giving the updates, and you will have to buy a new version of it. So thank you so much. Now, I may like to introduce our next speaker for the panel discussion. I am a dreamer. I dream of an equal world, a fair world, a world where everyone has equal opportunities and a fair shot at fame. I am not a magician. I am a believer in goodness, impact, and change. I will fall, I will fail, but I will get up because I believe in my ideas and changes it can bring. With these words of Mr. Peri himself, I would like to welcome Dr. Maheshwer Peri, founder and chairman, Career 360 Degree Pathfinder Publishing Private Limited, onto the platform to share his inspirational thoughts with us. Mr. Peri.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. Thanks so much, Priyanka, for the introduction. I've heard the profs and the doctors, and let me talk about the industry side of it, because I think I'm no doctor, by the way, I'm a very far cry from being a doctor, because I don't have the rigor and the process that is attached to actually anyone being a doctor. And honestly, while a lot of people tell me that they want to give me a doctorate, I don't take it for the simple reason that unless you put in a lot of effort and rigor and put your heart and soul into it, I don't think anyone should call themselves a doctor in that sense, right? So when I see the academics here being doctors, I feel proud of it, and I think that I'm nowhere close to them. So I don't call myself a doctor, and neither am I one, actually. I'll talk about a business case study of what exactly happened over the since the pandemic, right? And I'm putting the pandemic in its perspective, because what's happened over the last 1 year, I think has fast forwarded some of the industries for the next 10, what would have happened otherwise in the next couple of decades. And I will take up education because that's where I really work hard in the space. I remember about 4 or 5 years back, a lot of directors and deans and academics that I used to talk to would always tell me that, listen, education can never go online. You need to have an offline thing. You need to have presence. You need to have classroom and all, which is actually true. I believed in what they said. I still believe in what they say, that education cannot be online. It has to be offline in a large sense. But over the last 1 year, what we realized is the same people who were evangelizing education in a classroom have now started evangelizing parts of it to be going online. Not everything, because you need to have teamwork, you need to have peers talking to each other, students talking to each other, and so on and so forth, project work, which typically happens over interaction. But every prof that I meet now, every dean, director, chancellor, VC, anyone that I meet over the last 1 year, have started exactly saying the opposite of what they were saying, which is what digital is all about. That there are belief systems that we have, which we believed were to be true over a period of time, which digital will come, course correct, and take it away from you. Today, in my opinion, the gin is out of the bottle as far as online is concerned, in the sense that we now believe that a lot of what we were doing offline earlier could be delivered online. I'm not saying everything, mind you, because there are still gaps that have to be filled in the space. But quite a few things that earlier we believed could never be done online are being done online. And that opens up a lot more opportunities. And for me, it is two things. It brings in possibly a system where education will become more affordable. That's because we always say that technology has the power to make something low cost than what it was earlier. Though I don't see that happening on the ground at this point in time, because students are still continue to pay what they were paying earlier. But I do hope that at some point in time, because education has gone online, we will all be able to tell our children that, and people who couldn't afford good education also, that listen, you will also have a fair shot at an opportunity as much as someone who can afford education. And two, for me, technology is the only enabler by which education can make it affordable. And India doesn't have an option but to make education affordable, because you simply can't have millions of kids not able to afford education and not having a fair chance at the opportunity that the country provides for them. And what does this mean? Imagine a situation like today, if you look at coaching, and I'm talking of coaching for the examination that used to happen. People used to flood the streets of Kota and Vijayawada and Lakshmi Nagar in Delhi and so on and so forth. Those have completely got vacated, and online coaching companies have taken over. And I know the business model that people are going through and the kind of changes that are going through. The same offline coaching company which was charging 3 lakh rupees to the student is now going back and telling the student that, my online education is as good as what I was providing offline. Look at the change in stance that they are forced to make out of business compulsions, maybe. But because there is a complete closure of the lockdown that has impacted them, that the same coaching companies which are offering a coaching for 3 lakh rupees over the year for a NEET or a JEE or a UPSC or whatever it is, are going back and telling the same student that their online education is as good as what they were offering offline, so they must prefer them. That's the first part. And the moment they did that, because they are supposed to compete with good tech-enabled online companies which are already existent in the market, they brought down the price from 300,000 to 50,000, 60,000, 70,000. Now, this is an impact that I see happening not just in the coaching, which is informal education, by the way, to formal education also. Now, imagine a situation, if you look at chartered accountancy as a course, right? CA as a course, you actually have an entry barrier. You have a free entry and you have very difficult exit barrier, right? Now, what it enabled people to do is to work while they were, while they were studying, take an examination, and the examination was so difficult that only 3-4% students got out. Now, if you look at JEE also, it's almost similar that, the entry barrier is very difficult. The exit is very easy on the other side. Now the government of India is talking of how they will create an exit test for medical examination, medical MBBS, right? Which means you will have an entry test and you will have an exit test. If you were to create an open work culture, an open degree program, where all of us, you can study in IIT or wherever you want, and the exit test is the same as the way you have an entry test to get a student come into an institution. If you were to have an exit test and online takes over, what exactly happens in this space? For me, there's a great possibility that you'll actually have students from GL Bajaj, for example, or your institution doing much better than what are perceived to be better B schools than you, and someone below you also might be doing better than what your students might be doing. And that is the power of what an online can do, because you can actually create course curriculum, which is what the Khan Academy does world over, which is of superior quality in terms of teaching, process, learning, rigor, discipline, and an exit test. So I foresee over a period of time that you will actually have some online degree programs to be more credible and more aspirational than many of the offline degrees that are being offered by institutions in the country. The top tier would not be touched because they keep working on pedagogy, curriculum, and those kind of things. But the tier 2 and tier 3, which survive because they have the license to give a degree. I repeat my words. Those institutions which survive because they have a license to give a degree would be eaten up by an online degree program that is possibly given by a very good institution, which ensures as a part of its structure a proper rigor, discipline, pedagogy, curriculum, and proper entry, and most importantly, a very, very difficult exit examination where than those students who come out from tier institutions which don't believe in education properly, but end up being so because they have the license to give a degree. And this is what online would do. And what would happen there? Recently I was talking to, you see Upgrad and Simply Learn and all these companies, right? And Great Learning and all. Recently I was talking to a person. There is one foreign, an international university that is about to come to India through one of these players. The cost of the degree, if you were to do offline, is about $100,000. It's about 74 lakh rupees. And the online part of it, where they partnered with an Indian partner, is about 10 lakh rupees, 10 to 12 lakh rupees. The moot point here is, or the key issue here is, that the examination to pass the examination is same for both. Because that foreign university cannot set up a campus in India, because of the structure that India has, these people are partnering with Great Learning. They're setting up this entire, infrastructure, the entire learning framework, the learning platform that you have. And they're delivering the lectures online from wherever they are in US. And the examination to pass out would be the same to these students as it is to those students in US. Now, imagine a situation where one of these guys becomes a topper in the class. For me, the differentiation here is that what was earlier being offered at 75 lakh rupees is now being offered at 12 lakh rupees, which is 1/6 the price. And because the learning is similar in terms of, and again, I'm saying I withdraw when you say teamwork and all, because yes, there is a lot of learning when you sit in a classroom. It is life learning, and it is not just academics and marks and scores and those kind of things. But having said that, if you were to focus on what some of the institutions are surviving based on the permission to give a degree is concerned, I think the online learning will eat them over. It will eat them over for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Because someone with greater belief in education, with a proper tech platform, and setting up everything that an offline would do, or trying to replicate most of what offline can do, if they were to convert that into an online education platform and make it so difficult for people that, like in a typical college, when you enter the college, it means that you exit the college with a degree in your hand, right? Now, if you were to remove that guarantee, which is what open learning or distance learning used to give at some point in time, and come up with a methodology where those students are more preferred by industry and corporates than any other student, then what exactly happens? So for me, that is a sea change, that suddenly all of us are saying that the online can make this world a slightly fairer world as far as education is concerned. I'll pick up another point also that we've been working on, because we work on the online space, edtech space, and we also try to create some programs for students so that and our products obviously are not competing with the big ones, because we try to create a product which is more affordable. The objective of the company being that we need to create an impact at a grassroots level. So what we did was we tried to create a coaching product. And this is the second part of my conversation. The first part is over, by the way. So we were trying to create an affordable coaching product. Now, when you create an affordable coaching product, you try to mimic or replicate what an offline coaching would do. We got the data which essentially said that about 60% of students do not go through a coaching as far as medical entrance is concerned, but they still go and take an examination, the NEET examination. And for JEE, it's about 30% students don't go through any coaching, by the way. Now, which means that these students have a disadvantage as compared to those students who've gone through a formal coaching system, because either they could afford it or they could have access to good coaching. Now, how do you make this a fairer competition? Can I tell the student that, listen, when you go into an examination hall, you will exactly know how the screen would be, what is on the right side, what's on the left side, what are the questions, and process him and discipline him? Can I tell him the kind of difficulty level of questions? Can I tell him the pattern of the examination, the methodology of the examination, how to go about attempting it, and telling them how they are as compared to their other students? So what we did was the first thing we did was we hired about 10 people from IIT Delhi itself, because we were trying to create an IIT, JEE examination. We said, let's get the IIT Delhi people only. We hired 10 of them. We made them mark about 1,000 questions based on 4 attributes. A question which requires more memory, more comprehension skills, more logical ability, more mathematical ability. Now, each of the, and like anything, it can have 100 for each of them. They don't need to add up to 100. It can be 100. You need 100% comprehension, 90% mathematical skills, 100% logical ability, and so on and so forth. And as we kept marking it, we also had students take those questions. At some point in time, we said that these students, a student A is very good in comprehension and very bad in mathematics, based on how he started answering those questions, right? He or she started answering the questions. Assuming I were to say that this question requires a lot of mathematical skill, 100% mathematical skill, and a student of great mathematical skill hasn't answered it well, either I mark this student wrongly, or I mark this question, the attribute, wrongly for this particular question. And at some point in time, when you have millions of students taking those tests and thousands of questions being given that attribute, the other questions mark themselves in terms of how, what is required to answer this question. Now, if you try to mimic an offline coaching institute, what does this teacher do? The teacher calls you and say, Achha, you know maths very well. So maths mein I'll give you difficult questions. You are not too good in comprehension. Let me, isme 10 questions zyada practice kar lena. And you give them 10 more questions so that the practice keeps going. That is how an offline coaching does. They look at each student differently and start dealing with different students in a different manner by giving some easy questions to some students and difficult questions to some students, and vice versa. Now, if a tech product can actually enable that to happen by saying that, okay, you are very good in maths, so I'll give you and that's adaptive learning, by the way, that, we give you more difficult questions on maths and lesser difficult questions on comprehension because you're not too good in comprehension, and make you practice more and more and more and more on comprehension, you become as perfect as anyone. And then in a peer group of, say, about 10,000 students, I start marking them, ranking them, saying where you are, what is the rank in this, and what is the percentile in this, what happens. So what we started doing is, we said, can we actually create an affordable coaching product which mimics a perfect tutor, where at some point in time, even before you start taking the question, I say that, okay, Mr. The name, whatever, Mr. A, you will come and answer this question wrongly, and your answer is likely to be this wrong answer. If technology enables that, I've created the perfect personalized tutor. Right. And this, at some point in time, the AI and the machine learning will take us through to that, because the more we have millions of students taking those questions, and I start, you know, characterizing a student based on what he's good at, what he's bad at, in a very, very perfectly synced way. And that obviously happens when it takes lots of questions, by the way. And on the other hand, also mark questions correctly, where each question is corrected in its normal course, what happens. So my opinion is that moving forward, a coaching industry, to begin with, when I say education, you actually dealt with online formal degrees, and now I'm talking of coaching. Both are about to be revolutionized, because technology has disrupted them. And no one believed 3 years back that it can never be disrupted, mind you. It is the pandemic that made even those people evangelizing offline education to come and evangelize online education, maybe out of compulsion, or maybe out of changed belief systems, by the way. Some people do it out of compulsion. Some people do it because the belief system has changed. And there is no wrong in either of the two, by the way. Doesn't need to be judgmental about the whole thing. The thing is there a possibility that the digital transformation that we are forced to adapt and adopt, does it mean well for the world at large? I personally think that this pandemic, obviously, it cost most of us many things. The world is going through a tailspin in a sense, but it has made us learn things that we never believed were possible. I would never have believed that I can be sitting here and attending a conference at your institution. I would never have believed that I would never be able to, I've not traveled for 1 year, which is almost 1 year. I never believed, in a week I would travel at least once a week, and I'll be found at an airport. Now one does all those things through these kind of conversations, right? I now know that I don't need to travel and meet someone physically and personally to actually have a business conversation with them. All these things are possible because I think the business transformation that's happened, imposed possibly with the pandemic and the lockdown, has been very, very impactful. And for me, any business transformation which makes those products or those services available to on a fairer way to a larger section of people is the best solution that came out of the pandemic. And from that perspective, I'm very, very happy that we are where we are at this point in time, that there is a great possibility over a period of time that we'll actually see technology playing a pivotal role in making this world a lot more transparent. Much.
Thank you, Mr. Peri, for sharing the case study on how the education sector managed and thrived in the time of this pandemic. Thank you so much. I would like to introduce our next expert speaker for the panel discussion today, Mr. Nixon Joseph. Mr. Joseph is the President and Chief Operating Officer, SBI Foundation, Mumbai, is an experienced banker and CSR professional, skilled in investments, risk management, corporate finance, retail banking, risk management, credit analysis, and syndication. Mr. Joseph worked as manager operations, SBI Bahrain, and CEO, SBI Tokyo branch, was president of Toastmaster Club, Tokyo, and one of the founders of Tokyo International Debating Society. As coordinator of SBI Youth for Indian Fellowship, Mr. Joseph has mentored hundreds of youth. Currently President and Chief Operating Officer of SBI Foundation, Mr. Joseph is driving the CSR activities of the State Bank of India as well. Mr. Joseph has received Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award for Professional Excellence. I would like to request Mr. Nixon Joseph to the platform to share his journey of excellence with us. Mr. Joseph.
Thank you everyone, and good afternoon panelists, professors, students. We are living through a fundamental transformation in the way we work. Automation and thinking machines are replacing human tasks and jobs, and changing the skills that organizations are looking for in their people. These changes raise huge organizational challenges at a time when business leaders are already facing unprecedented risk and disruption. The pace of change is accelerating. Competition for the right talent is fierce. And talent no longer means the same as 10 years ago, many of the roles, skills, and job titles of tomorrow are unknown to us today. And no exploration of the future of work will ever be conclusive. Indeed, one of the defining characteristics of our age is the ability to spring surprise, like the pandemic which we have now. So to stay ahead, you need to focus on your ability to continuously adapt, engage with others in that process, and most importantly, retain your core sense of identity and values. For students, it's not just about acquiring knowledge, but about how to learn. For the rest of us, we should remember that learning is a continuous process and intellectual complacency should not overtake us. The message for the leadership is act now. The future isn't a fixed destination. You will need to recognize multiple and evolving scenarios. Automation and artificial intelligence will affect every level of the business and its people. And therefore, a depth of understanding and keen insight into the changing technology is a must for everyone, not only for IT people. The commercial value of learning takes precedence. A university degree will be seen as less valuable than specific and relevant skills or experience. Automation will not only alter the types of jobs available, but their number and perceived value. By replacing workers doing routine methodical tasks, machines can amplify the comparative advantage of those workers with the problem solving, leadership, emotional intelligence, empathy, and creativity skills. Those workers performing tasks which automation can't touch become more pivotal. And this means creativity, innovation, imagination, design skills, etc. Finding the skills the business need, that is the skills they are looking for, problem solving, adaptability, collaboration, leadership, creativity, and innovation. One clear lesson arises, that is adaptability in organizations, individuals, and society is essential for navigating the changes ahead. It is impossible to predict exactly the skills that will be needed even 5 years from now. So workers and organizations need to be ready to adapt. Inevitably, much of the responsibility will be on the individual. They will need not only to adapt to organizational change, but be willing to acquire new skills and experience throughout their lifetime, to try new tasks, and even to rethink and retrain mid-career. The secret for a bright future seems to me to lie in flexibility and the ability to reinvent yourselves. Think about yourselves as a bundle of skills and capabilities, not a defined role or profession. And to ride the current wave of digital transformation and remain agile and competitive in the future, companies must continuously monitor their environment for change. We have to bring Silicon Valley startup culture inside organizations. Silicon Valley startups culture means they're known for their agile decision-making, rapid prototyping, and flat structures. The future for business, as I see, we have to be socially responsible. The pressure on corporates to be socially responsible will be more, as youth, millennials, Gen Zs, all will be demanding and would like to engage with corporates who are more environmentally, socially responsible. I would just mention here that in one of our rural fellowships, which our SBA Foundation is implementing, we got 12,000 applications from highly educated and those from corporate careers for this 13 months rural fellowship, which is only 100. For 100 opportunities, we got 12,000 applications. That means the present generation, highly educated youth want to do something different, want to be socially responsible. So that pressure will be there on corporates and organizations to be more and more socially responsible and transparent. Being from the banking sector, I would just love to touch on some features of banking in the future. Banking will be defined by 4 primary characteristics. First, there will be a transition from product-based operations to service-based roles. Solutions offered by banks of the future will see a greater focus on resolving specific problems encountered by customers instead of merely offering up ready-made banking products. Secondly, banking will require BFSI companies to adopt a more customer-centric approach to banking. Banks will need to personalize their efforts, offers, marketing, and user experience. Thirdly, banks that succeed in riding the new wave, digital wave, will need to embrace a major shift towards digitization. Offering digital solutions can further the futuristic objective of improving customer experience and promoting service-based operations. And lastly, banking will require to collaborate with the fintech companies on various fronts like lending and teaming up to create co-branded products. So where do humans or employees fit into this? At first glance, it may appear that if banking grows to be as digital, as automated as it appears, human involvement will no longer be required to keep banking alive. Aspects like automation, artificial intelligence, mobile banking, and self-servicing could indeed prove to be disruptive to many conventional banking jobs. The predictions do seem grim. Humans in banking would only evolve and transform. Developing and supervising automation will require human involvement. The use of artificial intelligence and machine systems in digital banking will bring about unprecedented advancements in various areas. Nevertheless, the responsibility of maintaining these artificial intelligence systems and supervising automated procedures falls upon manually driven process. To oversee the functioning of machine-driven decision-making and to ensure the risk associated with automation are minimized, banks and FIs will require artificial intelligence auditors. Banking thus requires human involvement along with digitization to achieve the success it promises. And demand for certain expert skills will be on the rise. With the rise of digitization in banking, the skills like artificial intelligence expertise, data science proficiency, and machine learning are fast going to become the top talents. Managing customer relationships is inherently a human undertaking. Personalization is one of the key aspects of future banking. And while digital solutions are capable of several impressive accomplishments, artificial intelligence has yet to cross the barrier between automating a process and adapting it to suit each individual customer. This is where manual intervention can prove to be of great help. Roles related to customer relationship management in the banking industry will be filled by skilled professionals who can help bridge the gap between automation and personalization. Automation may take away some jobs, but it will create new jobs. Functions performed by bank tellers, cashiers, and data entry operators can be converted into an automated process. But where customer relations are involved, personalization is necessary. Humans will continue to remain indispensable despite the sweeping digitization. So how can professionals or students remain relevant in the future banking era? The key to remaining relevant in this age of digital disruption lies in reskilling and upskilling. The need of the hour is to upgrade the skills to match the futuristic requirements of the banking industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Adaptability, agility, and upskilling is indeed very important, and CSR should be taken at the forefront. Thank you so much for sharing insights. Moving ahead with the program, I would like to introduce Mr. Vineet Suri. Mr. Suri has rich experience of over 30 years with proven track record of successful turnaround, differentiated service, innovations, operational excellence initiatives, and organizational transformation, coupled with high level of drive and result oriented in multicultural, multinational, large organizations. He has worked with the organizations like Tata Sky, Mahindra and Mahindra, Dish TV, and National Panasonic, to name a few. Mr. Suri specializes in customer experience, digital strategy and transformation, new launches, and startup operations, customer service, customer life cycle, and relationship management, business strategy, vendor and partner management, client management, business excellence and transformation, Six Sigma, business process management, learning and development, innovation, and change management. Mr. Suri is the Vice President in Dish TV and is a visiting faculty to IIT, BHU Varanasi, and FMS Delhi University. I would like to welcome Mr. Suri to the platform to share his valuable insights with us. Mr. Suri.
Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you, everyone, for giving me a chance to speak on digital transformation and the future of the business. I will share the screen. Please let me know when you are able to see it.
Please share, sir.
Yeah, tech support.
You may please share, sir.
Yeah, I'm sharing the screen.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. So I'm making it full screen for the benefit of all. So first thing, what we one area, which is the supply chain interventions for Industry 4.0, and how do we optimize the supply chain. If we look at the supply chain ecosystem, we are evolving towards the complete digital ecosystem. Today, we are talking of digital supply chain, smart manufacturing, digital products and services, and also we are talking of data analytics, which are becoming a core competency for any organization. 2030 and the next decade will be where we have the digital ecosystem. When we say digital ecosystem, we talk about the flexible and integrated value chain networks. We talk of the virtualized processes. We talk of the virtualized customer interface, and also industry collaboration will be the key value driver. In terms of the integration in the supply chain, right from supplier, manufacturer, distributor, and till the end customer, everyone will be integrated. And everyone will have a visibility what is happening at the other end. What is the inventory levels, what is the stock level, what are the issues, where are the delays? Everyone will be able to look at that with the help of the integration. Push technologies, for example, cloud platform or smart sensors or mobile tracking devices or the computer processors or the connected systems, intelligent algorithms, they all have huge impact on our digital supply chain. Similarly, there are the pull drivers. For example, the customer expectations are increasing. We have the increasing supply chain complexity, and we have the integrated partners. Everyone, all the partners, right from supply chain to manufacturer to distributor, everyone is connected today. And we have the visibility of social media data, we have the website interactions, we also the cost pressures are there on the organizations, the service pressures, the service level pressures from the customer sides, they also have a huge impact. Even the local and the global regulatory compliance are also having a huge pressure on the digital supply chain. Coming to the key elements of the digital supply chain, it will be the integrated. And when we say integrated in planning and execution, there will be end-to-end integration in terms of supply and demand planning. On the supply side, we will have the end-to-end logistics visibility. That means everyone, right from supplier, warehouse, manufacturer, distributor, and the end customer will have end-to-end visibility that what is lying where. And we will have the integrated materials requirement planning. Vendor will be able to manage the inventory, and he will have a visibility of the stock, visibility of the inventory levels. And on the customer side, we will have the digital supply chain segmentation. That means depending on the customer requirements, we will be able to have the customized supply chain. So suppose a customer wants quicker delivery, so supply chains will be able to provide those deliveries. Some customers will be cost efficient and they do not bother about the quicker delivery. They will like to have the consignment, say, next week or maybe in the next 2-3 days. Then the supply chains will be able to adapt to such requirements. So we will see our supply chains going customer segmented depending on the customer requirements, as well as depending on the different product requirements, there will be different supply chains. The supply chains will be able to proactively sense the demand, what is being demanded by the customers, and they will be able to consolidate the demand through regular and more efficient utilization of the customer data, sales data, as well as looking at the customer needs from time to time. And one more thing we will see, that the external data, for example, the environment data, the weather data, the feedback from the team, from the field, these also would be improving the efficiencies of the supply chain. And there will be a dynamic, real-time inventory management. If we look at the enablers for the smart supply chain, the prescriptive supply chain analytics will come to. Today we talk of that there will be a predictive supply chain. For example, you will be able to predict what the customer demands will be in the next 2-3 days, 2-3 years. But moving forward, we will have the prescriptive type where not only you can predict what will be the requirement, but also you will be able to say that how the supply chain should be able to react to some situation. For example, one of the situation we came across, COVID situation. So in such thing, if we have the prescriptive type of digital supply chain, it will come to our prescribing that what should be the type of the products, what will be the demand. And in terms of one of the other enablers are the procurement 4.0, the logistics 4.0, smart warehousing, the efficient spare parts management, and definitely the visibility of the logistics across the supply chain. When we use the word procurement 4.0, what do we mean by that? We mean that our procurement is digitized. And when we say our procurement is digitized, it means we need to have the digitized tools, we need to have the digitized processes, we need to have the digitized talents. I think one of the students was asking what will be the requirement in future. So requirement will be that the student should have digital skills, they should have talents, they should be, because new categories will be created in terms of software, in terms of hardware, and in terms of the new digital transformation services. So students should have those knowledge, and we should have expert for in these fields who will be managing these digital supply chains. And our organizations also will change to digital culture, and there will be a transparency across the organization. And we will find a lot of new media partners who will be responsible for hiring these type of talents. In terms of the digital tools, lot of interfaces, lot of procurement, IT infrastructure would be created, and business processes to support these integrated and strategic supply chain would be ready. Also, our P2P, what we call the procurement to paying process, would be fully digitized. And we will be able to collaborate with our suppliers in a better fashion in order to ensure that we have the desired performance levels. So we will co-create our products with our suppliers. Suppliers will be involved in our new product development. Suppliers will be integrated in our planning. We will involve our suppliers when we plan our future, when we plan the long-term or the short-term planning we do. And big data, predictive analysis, and the external data analysis, this will help us in improving the design as well as the performance of our supply chains. And these all together will add and transform the value proposition of the procurement function. Coming to the key trends which we will be looking into in the coming years, innovations and disruptive technologies will have huge impact on the supply chains of the future. And those supply chains, we call it supply chain 4.0. And some of the technologies generated by the fourth industrial revolution, for example, big data analytics, IoT, automation, robotics, 3D printing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing, blockchain, these all will have huge impact, and it will have a visibility, coordination, and performance, and they will take these things, performance, to the next level. For example, let's take an example of big data analytics. It will have application in having the accurate demand forecasting, better quality controls. You will have predictive maintenance for the machines, predictive inbound logistics, as well as the delivery management. How artificial intelligence, they will address the supply chain issues. For example, managing the inventory in a better fashion, purchasing, location planning, freight consolidation, as well as routing and scheduling our problems. The potential benefits out of all this would be better inventory control, better monitoring of the customer behavior. We will be able to see what the customer wants, and we will be able to align our processes to the customer needs. And those needs, we will be able to do it in a faster manner. We will be agile to these requirements in order to meet the customer demands in a shorter time, and we will be reducing the product development costs, as well as we will have shorter lead times, greater logistics flexibilities, also the improved delivery processes. In order to have more and more automation, we will look at, for example, automation in the production at the factory. Machines will provide constant feedback on the production capacity and even information on the shipment production status. We will see autonomous trucks in the warehouses, for example, the driverless trucks who will be moving the goods from the warehouse to the destinations with live transit location updates via the satellite links. We will also have the predictive shipping. That means we will be able to predict what the customer demands will be, and we will be able to ship our goods according to those demands. And even the customer will be more and more empowered in terms of rerouting the consignment with a click on the mobile. So customers will be able to look at what is the order status, and they will be able to input a new delivery destination so that they are able to get the benefit of in case they want to do any changes in the destination. Also, we will have drones performing fast deliveries and also picking up in case we want to return anything. What is the implication of the next generation supply chain? The first thing what we see is our supply chains will become more and more agile, more and more robust and sustainable in nature. When we say agile, agility in the production activities. We will have flexible labor. We can utilize our labor for multitasking. Suppose some of the line we do not want to use, we want to close some production activity, we will be able to close that line and we will be able to shift that manpower to some other productive measure. We will be able to ramp up our capabilities quickly, and our process design flexibility will also be there. In terms of the capital productivity agility, we will be having the flexibility in our assets. We will have agility in our purchasing in terms of supplier selection, in terms of developing our suppliers, as well as taking a decision of whether we want to make in-house or we want to outsource and buy it from some other partner. There will be agility in the product development as well, in terms of modelization, standardization. Also, for example, let's take an example of Dell. Dell has a strategy of postponement of the activity till it gets the firm orders. So what does Dell Computer do? They make the framework ready, and whenever they get the exact orders, they do build to order, that they work on a principle of zero inventories, leading to a lot of cost savings in terms of inventories, and that has made the profitability of Dell computers as doubled in the past time. In terms of planning agility, we will have agility in our demand, we will have inventory planning, and we will have end-to-end planning also in a flexible manner.
Mr. Suri?
Yeah.
Sir, sorry to disturb you. I just request you if it is possible for you to wind up in another 2 minutes.
Yeah, please, I will do that.
Thank you,
and we
sir.
will also see supply chain as a service, which will become a business option where anyone can have a real-time planogram. That means the store manager, he can find what the shelves are stocking, and the customers can virtually see the entire shop and order online. Some of the other benefits of supply chain 4.0 will be greater transparency and accuracy. We will be able to utilize the IoT data to improve our order accuracy. We will be able to take through advanced machine algorithms, leading to decisions which will lead to cost savings, and we'll be able to have the demand-driven supply chain management, increase connectedness and collaboration we will see, which will enable us to improve our collaboration with the partners, lower the lead times, and increase responsiveness to the risk. And there will be dynamic pricing decisions also with the help of the artificial intelligence and machine learning, where depending on the demand, we can change our prices. And another thing which we see will be the intelligent supply chain with the help of cloud-based GPS, RFIDs, and real-time tracking. We will be able to improve our transportation performances, and we will be able to have the automated warehousing, cargo tracking, and interconnected sensors can detect the supply chain disruptions, and they will be able to help us in managing our supply chain ecosystem in a better fashion. We will also see the improved warehouse management systems through RFID technology, sensors, machine-to-machine communication, smart containers, which will not only tell you that what is inside the container, but what is the destination, what is the expected time of arrival, and it will also monitor the transit activities of that container. And there will be robots for faster and better pickup and packing. There will be drones in logistics and collaborative robots. Collaborative robots, we mean that there will be human as well as robots both working together to improve the performance and take the performance to the next level. And then the last figure, if you see, we have the supply chain 4.0 performance, which will drastically reduce the transport and warehousing performance, which will reduce the administrative cost as well as the inventory cost, and we will also be able to reduce the lost sales to a huge level compared to the standard performance or the other functional supply chains. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity, and thank you for your time and patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Suri. Thank you for talking about supply chain ecosystem and procurement 4.0. Moving ahead with the program, our next speaker is Mr. Dev Kaushik. Mr. Dev Kaushik is the founder of ShopView and is Vice President, Sidereal Technologies. His vast experience comprises of retail tech, entrepreneurship, m-commerce, IoT, AI, RPA. Now, I would like to welcome Mr. Kaushik to the platform to extend his thoughts on the theme of the panel discussion. Mr. Kaushik, sir.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you. And I think I have 8 minutes, so I will try to conclude in during a timeline only. And first of all, thank you, Mr. Dr. Sora, Dr. Ajay, for inviting me to share my thoughts on that part. And because as you mentioned, I am basically working for the retail tech for past 8 years. And the retail tech is specifically for small entrepreneurs. Okay. So, you know, we heard from past 1.5 hour basically for about the digital formation, digital convergence, industrialization 4.0 and all. But there's some gap, I think, but it's not really like that. So how the small businesses, or the SME or MSME kind of thing can be part of this process? Because they have some limitations on that parts, and we are working for 8 years on that domain only. How this conversion or this part of technology can be adopted by them, because they have the limited resources, lack of understanding, knowledge and all. So all they have, this kind of we have drone, we have as Mr. Suri mentioned, we have smart retail delivery channels and all, we have drone channels and all. So, but how this can be utilized with a smaller MSME segment? There's a basic vacuum over there. Like before that, I can share my experience for past 8 years, like pre-pandemic and during pandemic. Because before that, when I go to some sort of retail owners or the small business owners and talk about their digital journeys, they are simple theory. If they want to make their shop or their store or their business digitized, they have only same. If there's some sort of store, let's say some retail store kind of thing, right? So what they did, they have only possibility, okay, I will install some sort of point of sale. Some POS machine is the only digitization journey they have in their mind till March 2020. But during this pandemic, they understand the power of digitization, how adoptable they can be, how they can be utilized these kind of technologies and all. This is again a second question. I will discuss this during discuss. I have so many things to talk, but I will try to conclude it in 8 minutes. Okay, so this is the one part of it. The second part, we have demonetization in 2016. Then you need a history, because every small business is the restriction for taking cash and all. Then only they adopt the digital payments. The Paytm is the history. You know, the fastest growing fintech in India is Paytm. That's only for demonetization or something like that. It's not promoting any brand, but it's a part of adoptability. Because the local businesses, the small businesses, the street hawker can adopt technology, that only they become the more and more. And thanks to Paytm, because they provide them an infrastructure in so economical, so easy way, so that they can adopt it very quickly and start implementing this, and rest the history. The same thing, how this digitization, how this revolutionization can be part of this small retailers, hawkers and all, because they must have some sort of understanding, there's some sort of technology adaptability, some sort of feasibility, some sort of solutioning, whether it is cloud or whatever it is, it can be done. So that is the one part of the story. The second part we have in discussion kind of thing. For example, like retail chain. So retail chain, we have in complete retail option. For example, in retail chain, home deliveries and all can be a register for our local stores in till March 2020. But now they are also looking for the options for making them digitalization conversion and all. And so many companies jump into it this from past 6 months. Like, because I am involving in this domain from past 8 years, I'm working very ground, because I have the early initiator for this this movement in India, what is called Shop Local. But that time I asked Shop Local, they here, why local? What is the benefit of that? So I have to explain them a lot of things about that, why it's a beneficial for them, there's the economy, so many things and all, but they don't understand this. But during this pandemic, they understand, because the local store is the only store which help them. But if they have digital enabled, we empower them digitally, that will be more easy for them. So customers adaptability, customer engagement is the new key, and that key is required. So the store owners now understand this. If they will not adopt technologies, if they don't learn things, if they don't have their learning curve towards technology, towards implementation of that tools, they will be lacking somewhere in the business or in the competition. Because all the big things like you see our shopping experience get changed. In past 2 or 3 years, Amazon completely changed our shopping scenario. Zomato or Swiggy, she completely changed our restaurant ordering solutions, and all restaurants industry have adopted their ordering mechanism towards whether it is Lime Tray or it is Zomato, Swiggy, whatever or Pet Puja, any kind of POS solution they require. That is an essential component for their business, not an additional part of it. The same thing, other business, whether it's retail, the grocery store, the vegetable vendors and all, everybody required this kind of things. So I just open a question for you over here to make it conclude in next 1 minute, to so that we have to think, if we are truly wants to make digital revolution, the industry revolution, or the digitization of any process or solution, whether it is retail or it is tech or it's a logistic, whatever it is, we must have to connect dots from zero. We can't think the solutioning as a digital expert or digital think tankers or digital conversion technique. We have technical, we have marketing, whatever the domain we have. We must to start the complete cycle from zero. Zero means the ground zero. The small street hawker, how he can get the technology benefit, how he can be, and there are restrictions. It is not tech savvy. There are restrictions. So how we overcome this restriction? That's the point one. How we convert, how we enable them to make the use of this technology to serve their customer. So that is the only, we create some system, some solutions, some because you are innovators, you are young blood, you come to the industry in next couple of years, you work on that part. So I just requested to think from zero, how we make this digitization is reachable, competitable, and provide an economical way to this smallest chain. Then we can bring the top layer of the complete industry. So that is my conclusion of that discussion. I have so many things to talk, but I think some other time I will share my personal thought on some case study about how the retail tech can be useful for customers and smartly enabled the store owners, the very street hawker with a technology revolution. Okay, so any question I can ask you a question during a question session, and thank you so much. I think I finished on time, I guess.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Kaushik, and thank you for giving us a question and something to think about during the break time before we get back to our technical sessions after the break. Thank you so much. And due to paucity of time, I would like to request all of our keynote speakers to please answer the questions in a very concise way so that we can keep our entire program of the second half in time. And I would like to request Dr. D.K. Batra, sir, because there is one question which is being specifically asked by a student for him. Sir, may I ask?
Please.
Yeah. So as an organization, how artificial intelligence will impact the processes, especially the marketing and CRM related activities?
See, the CRM related activity is already changing with the fact that now the majority of companies which were spending 75 to 100% of money on traditional CRM have started spending about 25 to 30% on social media CRM. So it's all about making profiles, first of all. Now this big data is being used to actually decode the qualitative inferences which come through, let's say, Facebook or Instagram talk. So social media CRM in conjunction with traditional CRM, that's happening already. What I see is use of algorithms and machine learning to use a huge chunk of data through, people are now using R and other Python and some other, and there are many changes that are happening every week to use these to actually process data much faster and cut down on what is called the response time. So now what was happening initially was a human interface with the telephone interface. Now this will happen where the machine would send back, for instance, a response to a Facebook Connect within 24 hours. This is the protocol that companies have to follow. This would happen now in real time. So if I have a query or a concern or a feedback about a LG refrigerator, it will happen real time. That's the major change that I see happening in CRM. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question for Dr. Sanjiva Dubey. Sir? Sir,
Yes,
I hope.
please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Digital transformation of any organization needs data migration, which would be tough. Please share if we have also developed some automated tools for the same.
So the data migration is not tough. It is a normal phenomena. And as you know, the data has moved from punched card to tapes to one platform to other platform. So there are tools available. As a matter of fact, the new databases or wherever you are going to put them, they will give you the tools which will do various kinds of conversion. The problem is not in terms of the bits and bytes of data conversion, but the way you want to interpret them. For example, my category earlier was X and Y. Now I want to add another category Z. Now that is what the migration will make you little different. Okay. So I mean, very simple example is that now with the transgenders being accepted by the law. Now earlier our forms used to have only male, female. Okay. Now another column has to be added. Okay. Likewise, and there are various categories the data will has to be got added. So my take would be that don't worry about it. The data will be a problem for you. So it will get translated.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. We have a question for Mr. Nixon Joseph. Sir, I hope you're still with us.
Yes. And
okay. So the question is, service industry is also under the ambit of CSR law, but most of the damage to nature is done by manufacturing industry. Do you find it justified, although it is a collective responsibility to take care of people, planet, and profit?
see, like a collective responsibility. It is the responsibility of every organization to be socially responsible, to take care. Manufacturing by their very nature and because of the fact that we were a developing country, we had to give maximum focus to industries. So because of these various reasons, we had to like allow indiscriminate growth of industries. All these, like that is why there has been damage to the environment, or corporates were not very much socially responsible. But then now all over the world, everywhere, people have come to realize that unless we are adopting sustainable practices, the planet is going to be in a dangerous situation. So all the organizations, that is why our government also brought about this change in Companies Act and made CSR mandatory. And it's evolving in India over a period of time. I'm sure that to the planet, to the environment, to the society around, all these will gather importance, due focus, and then we will be having all the organizations would also adopt sustainable practices. Both services as well as the manufacturing industry, all of them will adopt such practices, because unless we adopt or integrate sustainable practices into our operations, we are not going to survive.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. And due to limitation of time, we have to end our question answer session here only. And so moving ahead with the program, knowledge is the new rich. And we thank all our eminent keynote speakers present here today for sharing this wealth with us. To felicitate our keynote speakers, I may request our tech team support to show the visuals. On behalf of GLBIMR, I may kindly request Dr. D.K. Batra to please accept our gratitude for sparing his valuable time with us and for sharing his valuable insights with us. We thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for providing me with this opportunity. Thanks. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of GLBIMR, I may kindly request Dr. Sanjiva Dubey to please accept our gratitude for sparing his valuable time for us and sharing his valuable insights with us.
Thanks a lot. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of GLBIMR, I may kindly request Mr. Ritesh Joseph to please accept our gratitude for sparing his valuable time and for sharing his valuable insights with us.
I'm really humbled, and thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity.
We thank you, sir. On behalf of GLBIMR, I may kindly request Mr. Maheshwer Peri, if Mr. Peri is still with us, to please accept our gratitude for sparing his valuable time for us and for sharing his valuable insights. I think due to pre-engagements, I think Mr. Peri has left the meeting. Thank you, sir. On behalf of GLBIMR, I may kindly request Mr. Nixon Joseph to please accept our gratitude for sparing his valuable time for us and sharing his valuable insights with us. We thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And it has been a great experience listening to the empaneled panelists. Thank you.
Same here, sir. Thank you so much. On behalf of GLBIMR, I may kindly request Mr. Vineet Suri to please accept our gratitude for sparing his valuable time and sharing his insightful words with us. We thank you, sir.
Thank you all. It was a thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Suri. On behalf of GLBIMR, I may kindly request Mr. Dev Kaushik to please accept our gratitude for sparing his valuable time and for sharing his valuable insights with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting. It's great learning experience for me as well. I learned a lot with other speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Kaushik. Dr. Swarup, may I request you to please check if Director sir. Okay. To extend a formal thank you note, I may request Professor Dr. Ajay Kumar sir, Director GLBIMR, to please take the platform. Sir.
Yeah, very good afternoon to everyone. Though my video was not there, but I have been listening to the wonderful speakers today. And I can very well say that all the participants must be having great takeaway from the sessions. And it was a great learning too, to listen to all the esteemed guests and wonderful speakers. I believe that there must have some new things come up during the deliberations by different guests, and I will request the organizing team to keep all the talks on record, so that if anyone wants to listen to these stalwarts in future also, that can be circulated to the students and others too. If someone wants to know about the subject by the speakers, specific speakers also, they can listen to them, and they can benefit from the deliberations made by the wonderful speakers. So my sincere thanks to everyone. Thank you very much. And I will again request all of you to remain associated with the Al Institute of Management and Research, and we will be looking for your association and your deliberations at different platform in future also, depending upon your availability and your schedule. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your consistent support. Before we leave the platform, there are two important announcements I would like to make. For participation certificates, kindly do remember to fill the feedback link, which will be shared during the valedictory session. Our session of Power Pack discussions is not over. We will resume the conference with 3 technical sessions at 2:30 p.m. followed by valedictory session at 4:30 p.m. All the students and delegates are requested to join us again with the links being shared with them. In case somebody is not having the valedictory session, I would like to tell that technical session 1 link will be applicable for the same. Thank you so much. Sir, with your permission, should we formally end the session?
Yes. Conclude.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.